Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football's Rise and Shine College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame College Football. Welcome into the show, everybody. Jay Chapman, Bishop Frank, Stephen G, Brian Sandlin. What's up, my guys? Hankster, Eric Reherd, and even Benji. Old Benji's in here. Welcome into the show, everybody. Glad to have everybody in here. We've got kind of a full slate that we're going to do today. I had to get over to, I would have been a little earlier. I didn't want to jump in the way of all of the Around the Table Sports show for sure. I do believe that we're going to kind of overlap a little bit with that. We are going to overlap probably a little bit with Jay and Coop as well. Happy Off-A-Lava Day to everyone who celebrates. Hey, I like it. Good stuff, Stephen G. Yes. Appreciate it. We need the brand power hour. Well, your brand isn't gonna. You're just gonna catch it's gonna catch some L's here this morning, here, brother. But it is what it is. We will probably, like I said, we're going to overlap a little bit with Around the Table and probably a little bit. I think Jay and Cooper going on at 11 as well to talk a little bit about whatever's going on with Off-A-Lava, which, by the way, Coop's deal with them last night was with Off-A-Lava was really, really great interview. Loved it. Loved what I heard from him. It actually kind of brought me to what I wanted to talk about today a little bit. And, a lot of the things that we've been talking about, it's stuff about Brent Venables and what he's bringing to this program and why Sooner fans are on board, all in, believing in what he's bringing to the table, right? And because it's not a lot of just fluff, it's a lot of, you can believe in what you're doing here. And I actually have, I've been trying to grab these videos. I had to leave away from here for a second because, whoa, I've got a toothache and it just came on all of a sudden. So I had to go get some stuff here to, the heck. He didn't. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I had to go get some stuff to kind of numb my tooth a little bit. So just so I could make it through this and everything. But hey, welcome into the show, everybody. Collins McDaniel, welcome in. Hey guys, if you haven't already hit that like button, make sure you wipe your feet when you come in this house. While we have Monday is conference reaffiliation day. Yes, it's been a long 3 years. Dude, you ain't wrong. And this is a great time for Oklahoma football. It's a great time for Texas football too. You know what I mean? I got to give them that part of it, is that going into this thing, the Red Rivals together, going into the SEC, somebody better step up. Both better step up, to be quite honest. I would tell you from a lot of what we're seeing, not to get too deep into this, but the reason that the Big 12 kind of turned into the Little 12, if for lack of a better term, is because of a lot of the stuff with the Longhorn Network and all that stuff. And when you start hemorrhaging other programs to other conferences, it weakens your deal. And it came to a point where Oklahoma and Texas had to go if you're going to really compete at the next level and for natties from here on out. Thankfully, they do have the brands to be able to do such, to get out there and recruit and stuff. But I wanted to talk a lot of today, to me, more about just kind of what this means to go into the SEC and to have, again, Brent Venables leading this Oklahoma program into the SEC rather than Lincoln Riley. I've said this a bunch of times that I truly, truly believe that Oklahoma was blessed with him slithering away in the middle of the night. I really do. And people can think what they want about it and say what they want about it. And I know that's not a popular thing to hear. for SC fans because they want to believe that they're headed in the right direction. I'm sorry to tell you, they're not. They're not. They're going to a line of scrimmage defensive league. It's like with a team that is not line of scrimmage centric or defensive. It's like going into a gunfight with a knife. It really is. And I would tell you that as much as, hey, listen, I think that Sark's learned a lot from, and here's where Texas has a better opportunity, even though I believe that Sark's a little soft too, right? But I would tell you this, having worked for Coach Saban, having worked for Pete Carroll, he has a leg up on what Lincoln is. Now, he hasn't shown to be a great head coach yet. He's done more than Lincoln has, though, with, well, as far as recruiting a full-on team, because he's been around full-on teams. He wasn't taught at Texas Tech. He wasn't taught by small school U coaches. And this is not something, I mean, again, you guys know that I think a lot of Mike Leach. I do. I think that he changed the game in terms of offense. And not just the game in college, everywhere. You see it all over the NFL. You see it all over high schools. It is what it is. But I would agree that once Fox and ESPN declined the Big 12 requests to begin contract talks early, UT, you were as good as gone. There was a lot of things that were going on that kind of made that go, right? I mean, they tried to leave 2 other times. There was 2 other times that they almost left. This has been coming for a long time. And it's funny that last night on one of the videos from a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody that said, enjoy college football while it lasts, as if it's going somewhere. It's changing without a doubt, right? It's definitely changing, but it ain't going nowhere. Let me tell you why. Well, first and foremost, it's the 3rd highest revenue generating sport in the country. And second, it feeds the biggest revenue generating sports league in the country, the NFL. Got to have them both. Got to have one to have the other. And nobody's going to give up the freaking gravy train that is college football. Now, is it going to change a lot? Yes, it is. We're in the midst of change. And that's kind of how it's going to be. Sooner in Texas, Mars James. What's up, guys? Welcome into the show. Coach Ricks, my man. Lucas James, SEC, 3 days away. Man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Excited. All right. Let me get into kind of what I was going to talk about a little bit. I was trying to kind of wait on this video. Dang it. Taking forever. Okay. Well, when we start talking about the differences in between, because Brent Venables doesn't get all the hype, guys. We know that. In fact, he kind of gets he's disrespected in a lot of ways. What's the difference in Venables and Lincoln or Sark or Brian Kelly or to some extent even Dan Lanning? I mean, head coaching experience is clearly a big separator in terms of perception between BV and the first 3. But how big a difference is there really in terms of, they're all considered elite coaches, all of them. We've talked about that. I don't think that Dan Lanning's an elite coach. I don't think he's even come close to proving that he is. He's a good recruiter. He hasn't won big games yet either. You can say whatever you want. He hasn't won anything big. And because the other thing is, how big a difference is there in regards to being a leader of young men? Brent Venables has been doing this for well over 30 years. well over 30 years. You know, he's been a part of championship programs over and over again. He knows what it takes to win. He knows he's seen a full-on team. Now, Sark has as well, because, in fact, both of his first mentors is very similar, really. The difference between Sark and Venables is not exactly what I'm talking about right at the moment, because they've both been with championship coaches, multiple championship coaches at USC, and then, of course, at Alabama for Sark. Venables has been a part of championship teams at Oklahoma and Clemson, played for a lot more of them as well, right? Played for won two, played for two more as the defensive coordinator at Clemson. They won one and played for what, 3 more with him as the defensive coordinator at OU. When you've seen it, and you've seen it from different angles, you know exactly what it takes. Now, do you have to prove it on the field? Sure you do. Sure you do. Do you have to prove that you've learned enough and that you can put that forward, or you can put that knowledge to work? Yes. But when you've been doing it as long, I mean, we're talking about almost 30 years just since he showed up at OU. He was doing that before then. They're at who we got? Oh man, we got a special guest coming in. He was doing it before that also at Kansas State. Got his start coaching at Kansas State. That was a big move for him. I'll be right with you there, guest. Okay. So to me, he knows what it's like to be a leader of young men. Is his bottom line. Real quick, let me grab this. Okay. And in regards to recruiting, especially talent, identifying talent, Brent Venables and this staff have set a standard, and he's hired a staff that has met or exceeded that standard pretty much since the get-go. Talking about a program that Lincoln Riley left, saying you cannot recruit elite players to Norman anymore. I mean, I don't even think we really have to go too far into that, because it's clear that elite players are still coming to Norman, offensive and defensive. He could get some elite players as far as the offense was concerned, but it got worse as it went on. And even though, with 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks that ended up going number 1 in the draft, they didn't ever continue to recruit at that high of a level. He's doing that. How does he do it? I want to share this video with you real quick, and it really kind of says a lot to me what he's trying to do.
What's reported and what actually, whether or not there's a real pursuit can be 2 different things. So first of all, I would say that, we're very intentional. We don't cast a big old net and throw it in the middle of the ocean and see what we get. We are very intentional, looking for the fit, looking for, certainly positionally and what, we're looking for from an athletic standpoint, a competitive standpoint, leadership standpoint, character standpoint, and again, how they're going to, come into this program and make a deposit, not just on the field, but make this place better. Do they bring value? And because I know, again, this can be, very short relationships. Some of these guys will be here just for several months, but it's important to me that we find young men that are going to bring value to our locker room. And so in a very small window, as you alluded to, it's recruiting on steroids. Everything happens really fast. You got to use all your experience and connections and relationships to try to find out as much as you can about these young guys, because that's how I protect the culture of the program. And I'm very culture-centered, fit-centered. Again, I'm looking for people that make us better, guys that can, we're not looking for backups, and we're looking for guys that come in here and make us better, going to make the guys in the locker room better. I tell the players all the time, my job is to put together the most competitive roster I can. Your job is to show up every day and ready to compete. And if you don't like to compete, good luck when you leave college, because the real world gets even more competitive.
Whoa, that's a lot of face right there. Yeah. I want to bring on my guest now and welcome into the show Drew, along with Sooner in Texas and Rob 077. But I want to bring in my guest now. He knows a little bit about what you just saw right there. Please welcome into the show, Mr. Mike Boganowski Sr. What's up, Big Mike? How are we doing, man?
What's up, man? I'm good. How you doing?
People start off the show throwing them horns down. My man. Welcome in.
Yeah, thank you.
We're talking a lot about kind of what this program is, right? And what it was before and everything. And I know you've been around, obviously living in the Kansas State area, Manhattan area of Kansas, you've seen kind of the full circle there. And just, and I loved your tweet the other day talking a lot about, how all this stuff with Lincoln Riley, which, by the way, he lost another player yesterday, another commitment, another defensive commitment. It's wild, man. But I guess I wanted to kind of go, the reason I wanted to have you on was to just talk to you a little bit about some of these things that is Brent Venables, that they come in and their job is to, you've got a lot of things. And I don't know if you saw Unfair Sports with Coop last night, the Sooner or Later. He had Afalava on talking to him. Now, obviously, he's going to make his decision today, but he talked a lot about how real this staff was, both BB and BV, right? Bill Beebenbow as well, and then just how he loved that part of it. It seemed to me like he was pretty much a lock. I feel like he's a lock. I mean, if the kid was playing, it would be really nice, right? You're talking about a 4-star offensive lineman. These linemen we're going into a line of scrimmage league, just like we said. But I wanted to ask you, obviously, with building this defense and knowing what the track record is for Brent Venable at both places, but what was it that really kind of turned it for you and for Mike Jr.? Because I know you left it in his hands. You said that. But what was it that impressed you guys the most?
I just had this talk actually with Coach Chavis and Coach Bates last Thursday when I was down there. I had my middle son Marcus at the camp, and I told him, I was like, hey, when I first was around you guys, I was a little suspect. You know what I mean? Because it was almost too real, to the point where you're like, all right, this is a show. You know what I mean? They're putting on really well. Yeah. And after about the second or third time, I was like, visiting there, I was like, all right, these guys are they are what they say they are, and they mean it.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I just seen it, them trending toward the top in Mike's recruitment. And they're obviously recruiting parents too. They're recruiting me and my wife. So, they I just felt that they were rising to the top, and they essentially out recruited everybody. I mean, Kansas State and Kansas did a really good job. But Oklahoma, they did a hell of a job, man.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about obviously the soul mission has been big. You heard Awfulava talking about that last night. You heard him talking about how real it was. And I kind of hear that's what I'm kind of hearing from you as well, is that it is real. This is because you don't hear different things coming out of his mouth. I mean, he's very, it's a constant, that the expectations are what they are. He doesn't seem to blow any sunshine up of anybody's butt, that it's going to be tough here. Did you guys have that conversation of, don't come here? Because that's the next video I wanted to play was kind of what he's talking about there. It's just that if you don't expect this to be hard, this isn't the place for you. And it doesn't seem like that's the same kind of stuff that you get everywhere, right?
That's the only way you want it. It has to be that way. It can't just be easy. It just can't be easy. You have to work for everything. Nothing's given to you. And I've been prepping Mike for this for a long time. I've never made anything easy on him here, growing up. I made him work for everything, but it has to be hard. It has to be difficult because you don't get better. Your team doesn't get better. Your program doesn't get better. If you're just giving everything, it comes too easy, and you don't work hard enough, and you don't have the drive. You don't have the grit. You're not tough. At the first sign of adversity, you're falling. You're crying. You're whining about the refs. Playing time.
Right.
Nothing works that comes easy.
No doubt. And I mean, being grown-ups, we know that, but a lot of, and your military background probably has a lot to do with it, which, by the way, now that I got you on the show here, I wanted to say one more time, congratulations on your retirement from the Army. I'm also a veteran, so I have lots of appreciation for that. But yeah, listen, I think not everybody brings their kids up that way, but I think that the right parents and the guys that he talked about being intentional in that first video that I popped up there, that they're not throwing a net way out in the ocean and just seeing what they come up with. They're going after guys that, that fit who this program is going to be. He's very culture central. And how much of that did you seem to hear a lot when it came to Coach V? I mean, the culture, how important it was for him to protect it, I guess.
Yeah, it's very important, and you can't have culture killers. You can't bring in culture killers. Like
you recruit your own problems, right?
Right, it's 100% right. It's 100% right. You cannot recruit these guys that are all about themselves. You know what I mean? And there's a little bit of self involved in this, and that's okay. But it can't be all about yourself.
Sure.
It can't be me over the team. And I stress this to Mike all the time. I'm like, listen, Oklahoma don't need you. You need Oklahoma, and it has to be that way. So don't think you're bigger than any one institution or anything. Like, you have to go in there and prove and work hard, be humble, hungry, and work hard every day. And you have to have that. That's part of the culture, competition, culture, all that stuff makes the team, the university, and the SEC and football better.
Right. I love that, man. And that's, I want to go ahead and share that one video because I think it really kind of shows exactly what we're talking about here. Hold on real quick. Let's pull that up there.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, wrong one. Isn't it video file?
I want them to have clear vision. I want my team to understand the right ability to respond, the toughness. You control all of those things. We're going to give you a lot. We're going to give you, amazing apartments and amazing nutrition and strength and conditioning and elite recovery and brand new suits. But you got to bring effort and attitude and guts and toughness. I can't give that to you. And you got to, you make a conscious decision to bring that every single day. That travels. You can put that in the suitcase and travel with that, but you can't, your stars and your scholarships and your high school accolades, your accolades from another school, you got to start completely over when you come here. And if you're not about that, then this isn't the spot for you. And so we worked hard at trying to protect the things that we're trying to build by being open and honest and transparent in recruiting too. Like, what you're getting ready to do will be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. Are you about that? And if you're not, don't come here. And if you don't embrace the expectations of a place like Oklahoma and the scrutiny that comes along with that, surprise, surprise, it's no different. You're out there for everybody. That's okay. Perspective is incredibly important, and I have an appreciation for it. Good. I'm glad the room's full. Good. and I want to meet those expectations. As a matter of fact, I want to exceed those expectations, and I want players that value that too. They get that.
Man, I just love that.
This guy's got me, trying to see if I can get a COVID year. You know what I mean? I'm trying to can I get a grad transfer or a COVID year? Let's listen to BV make me think I got one more in me.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's it tells you a lot though. You have a lot of coaches. I mean, I started thinking about Brian Kelly the other day, and I was bringing him up at the start of all this, where here's the difference between him. Yes, he's been a successful head coach, and I think Brian Kelly's a good coach. I do. I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's a good coach. But I think there's a big difference. And here's the same thing we were kind of talking about with Lincoln Riley. When all this stuff with Dominic Williams comes up, and they miss, and Sark and them missed, and immediately look, there's always going to be the people, the spin controlled people that are going to go out there and spin whatever it is, and particularly in recruiting. But you haven't really heard that stuff coming from Coach Venables when they've missed on somebody, when they were missing on some of those defensive line guys in the first year and in the second year as well, the second cycle or whatever, that they didn't get the guys that they wanted. And you heard a lot of people that were starting to doubt him, but you never heard Brent Venables doubting him. When BK misses Dominic Williams, it's, oh, well, you got players that want to be bought. It's not we screwed it up, and we don't buy players. You buy women's basketball players, but not football players at LSU. Get the fuck out of here,
Yeah. There's no accountability.
Right. And I mean, kids, you don't think kids see through that? I mean, they do. They're perceptive. They get it. And that was one of the things that I really liked about that show last night when, Afalavi was saying a lot of that. He was like, look, there's a lot of guys that you can tell they're full of it. This is not who they are when they come and see you and you're talking to them, or maybe you're there on a recruiting visit or whatever. You're getting one coach. You're getting a different coach later on. Everybody that he spoke to, all the guys that are in the program already on that offensive line, whether they're starters or not starters, he was like, oh yeah, that's who he is. That's who he is. If you get a smile out of him, good luck with that, because it's just not how he is. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean he doesn't love his players, but that we're talking about a coach too. And here's the thing, when talking about Beatonbow, talking about a coach that has players in the two deep all over the NFL.
Yeah, at that point, they're just trolling. Like when you start talking shit about BB, like you're just trolling, dude. Like you can't. Stats don't lie. You know what I mean? Numbers don't lie. It's on paper. It's there. Like you can't. At that point, you're just trolling, and you can't be taken seriously if you're talking that stuff about Bill Beatonbow. You're illegitimate. You're proving that you're not a serious person.
Right. Well, but something that Coach Venables was saying in that video is that he embraces the high standards of this fan group. A lot of people can't handle it, and particularly, you should be careful being on Twitter too much. I mean, because there are some fans. When it's going tough, if something's not going perfect, you're going to get a lot of. But I think, and it's every fan base, but I would say that you can get some of the more toxic is right here in the OU fan base. There's no two ways around it. The expectations are through the freaking roof at times, and almost. I think for the first couple of years, there was a lot of those expectations were a little, well, it just wasn't really something that could happen that early, not with the way the program was left. Now you're starting to see that they're starting to have to process kids, or kids are realizing they're not going to have a lot of time. They don't have an opportunity now because they missed their moment. And you played college football. You get this. This is a competition-based game.
Yep.
Especially here. And if you're not living up to the expectations, they're going to move on by, I think this is something that we've kind of had to reacquaint ourselves with at Oklahoma as fans, because, the early 2000s, there were guys that didn't play all that much that would have started anywhere else in the country.
Yeah. landscape's different. College football is different, and it's not. Kids aren't just going to a place that has the best facilities and wins championships.
Yeah.
Now you got to recruit guy. You got to continue to recruit guys that are still on your team. I mean, that shows you how much has changed. I mean, once you got a guy on your team, like he was on your team, like I don't even remember if transferring was an option in the late '90s, the early 2000s. Like
Yeah, I think it had
I'm
to
sure
be
it had to be done.
certain
Yeah,
circumstances, and then you were going to sit out a year at the minimum, and a lot of guys weren't willing to do it because it's easy to get forgotten about. I mean, I'm sure certain players could have probably done it, but it just didn't happen a whole lot, right?
yeah. No,
There had to be some
I
situation behind it.
yeah, yeah. He probably had to go walk on somewhere and then try to earn a scholarship
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
like, you
but
think
it's
about
different.
Cam Newton. Cam Newton got in trouble at Florida and had to go to Blinn, and then he turned around and then he's getting recruited again. But that very easily could have went the other way, man. He
Yeah,
very easily could have
could
went
have
the
been
other way
another
if he wasn't
statistic.
who he was.
Yep.
Absolutely. And that happened a lot. I
hmm
remember those days. But
hmm
again, these are those things that, coaches talk about. BV is and will be one of the best coaches in the country. I truly believe that because of the fact that
He already is.
it's
He already
authentic.
is. I'm gonna tell you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
He
agree.
already is.
I don't even kind of doubt that because
I mean, it's like everything he did prior to a head coach doesn't matter,
right.
right? And like
It's such a lazy
that
ass narrative.
yes, it doesn't make sense to me. Like everything he done has got him to this point. You don't just
Yeah.
become a head coach or the head coach at the University of Oklahoma by being a scrub.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What this tells me is that people haven't done their homework, or people don't they haven't been in his office and they haven't seen his collection of championship rings and watches and all the stuff he's got in his office. Like you see
Right.
that, you're like, damn, like yeah, this dude knows what he's doing.
Right. And I go back to the last couple of weeks when, and to me, this was, I think you were in the stream when we were talking about this, but right before the Champion Barbecue, what do? They extended him.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't add any money to it. The $400,000 added, that's like 60, 70 grand a freaking year over the life of this contract. That's a nothing. It's inflation is what that was, He's not even, he's at the lower half of the SEC in salary when all's said and done, in which, that'll all work itself out if he does what he does. But it amazed me how many people were saying shit like, what has he done to deserve it? He went 6-7 the first year. That 6-7 season first off, he has never put that shit on anybody other than himself.
Yep.
I'll do it for him because he didn't inherit the same kind of roster that Texas had when Sark got there.
Yeah.
And Sark didn't do as well.
Yeah.
He didn't inherit that same roster. Lincoln Riley, had he not taken, Caleb Williams with him and, some of and all the other stuff. I mean, they literally, in the first two seasons, they had replaced in the first two cycles, they had to replace 65 out of 85 scholarship guys. By the time this season rolls around, it will be like 79 out of 85? 79 out of 85. What are we talking about? But the point is, it's like, and the other part of it was, it's not even necessarily that. Yeah, that standard is the standard, and you're expected to win, and he's accepted that. You've heard him, after the Kansas game, after the Oklahoma State game. You didn't hear him making excuses about the officiating. He could have. He didn't. You didn't hear him making excuses for any of that stuff. He took it all on himself. And then, whenever they were talking about, I remember after the SMU game, and it was a little closer than a lot of people wanted, and they got pissed off about the Art Briles thing and all this other shit, right? And they were talking about how, I forget who asked him something about how tough it was, how tough everybody was being on Jeff Lebby, and he goes, "This is what it is.
They know what they're getting into. They know what they're getting into. They're getting paid a lot of money to do it. They're fine.
Yeah.
They know what they're getting into. They're grown men.
The standard is the standard no matter what.
Yeah.
And he embraces that, which is a lot different than Lincoln Riley, who makes excuses about every failure.
Oh yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Dude, I can't. I don't see how you can want to play for that guy. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like
I don't. I
like
don't think that
I
everybody
watch
does.
his.
I don't
Yeah,
think that everybody does.
Yeah, it's. I mean, other than a quarterback, I don't know. You know.
Everything we're hearing is that Julian Lewis might not. Now, I did see on USCJ show he was talking to Julian Lewis's mom. It sounds like he's still in, and I don't blame him. When it comes to quarterbacks and what he's done with quarterbacks, we can say that he's not great at developing them and stuff. And I mean that, but that sounds sour grapish. The truth is, I think most Oklahoma fans feel like the best thing possible could have happened when he left.
And that's why that's what you know. If you want to bitch and moan about Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma the way he did, got it. But in my opinion, it's the best thing that happened to Oklahoma.
Sure,
best thing that happened to the program, in my
yeah.
opinion. Like you got a guy of substance. You got a guy that's going to do it the right way. He's a leader of men. He's a great face for your program. He's going to take you to the next level. I mean, I think it's the best thing. It's the best thing that ever happened.
I do too. We've been talking about that a lot, and I'm glad to hear you say that because I agree 100%. I think that, man, you just can't. I mean, the fact is, you're just not going to get those guys. You're just not going to get those guys on the defensive side of the ball that you needed to get. Would they have gotten the offensive line guys? Probably with Beatonbow, they would have. They're apparently that offensive line coach at USC is not very good, but he didn't get rid of him, and he hasn't got rid of Benny Wiley. I mean, it's like half measures. You go get Danson Lynn and Coach Haney and those guys, which I think those guys are really good.
Yeah.
But why would you keep? Why would you keep the same? Why would you keep the same? Yoga instructor as your strength.
Well, I mean, it's like what President Trump said to Biden last night on the debate. Like, you haven't fired anybody. Maybe you should take a page out of old President Trump's playbook and start firing some people.
Sometimes you have to. And I mean, he talks a big game. It's always talking a big game, and he's like, we're that close and this and that. But there's all these excuses. And that's what I love, is that you don't get excuses out of Coach V. You don't. I mean, I've got a million other videos that we could show here, but the main thing is that I've been trying to get at is I just know that he sets the standard and he expects them to get there. He doesn't, and the kids don't expect it to be easy. They expect it to be hard. But I also think that, and let me ask you this, talking to your son, how much are they aware of the national narrative that goes around about them not being ready for the SEC, or them being secondary to Texas going into the SEC?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Smitty let him know. Smitty lets him know. It's like, I think they're probably about fed up of hearing about it. That would be my take on it. He lets them know, and it's motivation. It's adding fuel to the fire, to the workouts. But yeah, they're aware. They're well aware. I mean, they're all on social media. They all follow the on threes. Sure. They all follow all that stuff. So they're very aware, very much aware.
Well, and that's always a good thing. It's always a good thing. And I think that you could kind of tell with like Nick Anderson and on their podcast that they were doing, him and Caden Helms, that they were like, man, they ain't no love for us out there. Everybody's sleeping. Which, hey, that's a great way to come in. First off,
let them sleep. Let
them sleep. We'll wake them up.
Yeah, let them sleep. Like, I'm just not into the. I'm just not into the SEC. It's this almighty big and powerful conference, and nobody can compete with them. Like, that's just like, I don't understand how you come to that conclusion. Typically you have two, maybe a variation of another team that are carrying the weight of the whole conference. Alabama, Georgia, maybe a Tennessee, maybe a LSU. But other than that, like, come on, man. Just because you're in the SEC don't mean you're going to the Big 12 and beating people, or you're going to the Big 10 and beating people. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't know. I guess it's an ideology.
they're really good at propaganda too. But
Mm-hmm.
what you have is you have 9 championships versus 4 spread out over the playoff era. For the other conferences, you have 2 for the ACC, and then you have 2 for the Big Ten. There's no doubt that they're the lead dog.
Yeah,
and then obviously the draft numbers are clear. The SEC's draft numbers are heads above everybody else's. There's no two ways around it. But that's where I think that a lot of people think that you're going to have a harder time if you're Oklahoma. What I would tell you is that they've been preparing for this because of the fact that Lincoln left. They've been able to recruit and prepare for the SEC like you needed to prepare for the SEC, because guess what? Coach Venables is one of the few coaches that's been able to knock off an SEC team. And they did it twice with Dabo and him at Clemson.
Convincingly.
Right?
Pretty convincingly.
Yes. His defenses, without his defenses, they weren't going to do what they did. And obviously their offenses were a big part of that as well. I think that was definitely a team effort. But in order you see that and you know what it is to beat those teams. I was in the Rose Bowl for the Georgia game. I was in the Orange Bowl the next year when they played Alabama. The difference in size, because the first year Smitty was still there even, and they still had a lot of those guys left over. Well, then Smitty gets fired. The next year, you could see a difference in the size of those kids, the kind of kids that you were starting to see. Offensively, you had what you had. Now, the offensive line was still pretty damn good, Yeah. That was the year that they won the Joe Moore Award. But I could tell you myself, they get down 28-3. I was like, son of a bitch, I'd barely gotten in my chair. It was an expensive trip for that. So,
yeah, I bet.
The next year, of course, they go up against LSU, and I don't think that they were really there. But you're going to have to go through I think it's different than just playing them once even, having to go through it, playing them once. But I think they know that. But Venables, having been out there, also allowed him to be able to get a pipeline into Florida and get those speed guys, be a little more, I guess, national in your recruiting. But I think the other big difference when we start talking about recruiting, there's a few things. One of them is, we talked about this a lot with Kirby Smart and, him getting Justice Terry and the other kid, the Gibson kid, to come back. Kirby builds
that Gibson one kind of hurt, man.
Yeah,
I like that Gibson kid. I wish Oklahoma
could have Gibson kid a lot
locked
too.
him up, man.
He's the stud, right? They're both studs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you got to think of it. They've won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. They've won 29 out of their last 30 freaking games, or 30 out of their last 31. It is what it is. Plus, they're Georgia kids. You get a wall around your state if you're Kirby. Venables has done the same thing. When Lincoln was here, you know why Oklahoma State got so competitive? Because Lincoln and them they weren't even attempting to get the kids out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
No matter the size of your state or how many really top tier guys you have in your state, you better get the ones that you need. You better get the best of them. You need to own your state. And he's done that, right? He's done that because he builds relationships. First, he talked about being intentional. He builds those relationships. Of course, you got to do the NIL thing. We know that. This is all part of the game. I think that that's the biggest reason that Dabo's having such a hard time, is because he's just dragging his feet on that stuff, right? But, how are they building those relationships? Afalava said it last night. They're real. They don't bullshit you about anything. They tell you it's going to be hard. The soul mission is big. How important was the soul mission to you guys? Was that something that you guys, was it impressive to you and your wife and obviously to Mike?
Oh, no doubt. We took multiple trips to a lot of different schools across the country, and I could probably count on 2 fingers who actually really talked about things like that, the soul mission. And, to me and my wife, it was a big deal, soul mission, because, we're taking our firstborn child and we're handing him over to you people. And, we want to see the development and the maturation continue when he goes to college, not just become a football player and, be some big meathead.
Yeah.
We want to continue that growth and maturation and, set them up for life. Because that's what they're really doing. They're preparing and they're setting these kids up for life. Like, they
Even
are
having
really giving
elite
them tools.
even having
They're
elite
giving them
kids that you're
tools.
recruiting, it's still 1% of the kids that make it to the NFL.
Yep. It's all about the tools, and that's what I was, during this process, I was like, man, I wish they did this stuff when I was coming up. I'm like, dude, there was no internships, there was no, like, they made you go to study hall and made sure you got, you're eligible. But other than that, man, like,
Yeah.
they're hooking you guys up, and if you guys fell out of school and can't get a diploma, that's you a special kind of dumb. You know what I mean? Because it's all there for you, man. It's all that's your stuff.
I get it, man. You're not wrong, too. That's the thing. Thanks a lot to Coach Ricks for the super chat here. He says BV is getting SEC results. I think he is. I think that, but I also think this is what we've been talking about. A lot of people are using flash and money first. That's how they're attracting them in. That's how they get those kids to say yes. First off, you got to make sure you get them all the way to the finish line and get them to sign on the paper whenever signing day gets here. That's the most important thing. But if you've noticed, Lincoln Riley has the most decommits in the country for Power 5 coaches of anyone since he left here.
Yeah. And so,
Venables
here's
probably
one
has
thing.
around the least, right?
Here's one thing that I realized.
Uh-huh.
Here's one thing that I realized, and I didn't know this was a thing until, I started getting in this. I talked to a couple of friends. I'm like, there's kids out there that will just commit to a school that they like. It may not be perfect. It may not, but they like, okay, I like this school. They will commit to that school just to hold a spot and make sure that they have a spot, and they'll do it early. You know what I mean? And that's a technique that some of these kids are doing now. It's just committing. And USC seems to be one of the spots that it happens the most. You know what I mean? But there are that is a tactic in recruiting for some of these high school kids. Just commit somewhere that they like and hold a spot and continue throughout the recruiting.
See what they do from there, right? See what, because a lot of times it takes that first. I'm sure once you get that first big offer, that's when the rest of them start coming, right? Like, was Oklahoma like the first big offer for Mike?
Yeah, it
You would
was
call the first big one.
Yep. That was it was a game changer.
After that, then you start getting Michigan and some of these other big ones that are started, jumping in there as well, right?
Tennessee, Florida States.
Right.
I think Washington was before Oklahoma, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, all those big schools.
Yeah, so once you get one of them, they usually come, and that's the hardest part for a lot of kids, especially if you're not a camp guy that goes every week and can afford all that stuff. But I also think that, again, we've talked a lot about that. I think for him, for the rankings that Oklahoma's had, I would tell you that I think that they're underranked. I think that they're, probably criminally underranked when it comes to some of these kids. I think about Powers and Mike, and man, when you start talking about Danny Okoye and Jaden Jackson, what are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, the one good thing
right next to Stoney, eating up a lot of those blocks for him. Stoney's the number one DT in the country, and he was in the 400s whenever he committed.
Yeah,
that's why you have to look at offers instead of stars.
Yeah, that's a true statement. That is a true statement. Offers instead of stars, because Mike didn't go to camps. He was hooping, he was playing baseball, running a little track. So there wasn't a lot of time for that. But one of the good things that I saw come out of it was
about players, though. I like guys that play a lot of sports.
Yeah. You gotta be well rounded. You know what I mean? You got to be well rounded. But the one good thing that come out of that recruiting thing is, Reggie Powers. He got he got a big jump in the rankings toward the end, especially on 3, I think. So he got his props, which was very well deserving. And I'm glad somebody got some props out of it. I think Rivals did a good job with my son as well. The other two not so much. and I think that was regionally based.
Sure.
But I get it. You're not going to have too many big time recruits coming out of Kansas, and especially ones that ain't camping. But it is what it was. It was what it was. We knew what.
I think they're starting
what
to
type
realize
of player
that
he
it's a
was.
hotbed around that Kansas City and Manhattan area. That there's some programs up there that are really putting some kids out. Right.
There's some talent down in Wichita now. You know what I mean? Like there's some football players that may not be as dense as other places like Dallas or around the Atlanta area or out there in LA, but there's a few every year. There's a few.
You find, see, John, you said a little risky, but OU now has money to change course if needed. Has the money? Wait. Okay, so the risk is really mitigated, though. I mean, I think we're talking about an addition of $400,000 total. Total. So for a 6-year deal, and it's fully guaranteed. It's for a 6-year deal. But here's just to kind of put this into perspective. Here's what happens. And Big Mike was just talking about it, guys. A lot of kids are using leverage. They leverage what, they'll commit somewhere or whatever. And I don't blame them for what they do, because right now you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
They're playing the game.
They're playing the game too. And you better play the game, and you better be willing to play it well. You know what I mean? Because it's all part of it. Now that you're getting paid, become a grown-up and get ready. But here's what I would tell you. There's a lot of these coaches that are a lot slimier than what you're seeing at Oklahoma. I promise. And in the SEC particularly, they negative recruit. And we just talked about we've been talking about the fact that Venables is absolutely disrespected. What have you seen more out of Dan Lanning? What has he done more? He took over a program that was ready-made. Ready-made. It wasn't decimated when he got there. To be honest with you, Cristobal didn't even try to take that many of them with him. A couple of people left here and there, but they ended up, they were ready to rock and roll out there. What has he done? Gone 0-3 against Kalen DeBoer? He acts like he was being so loyal to Oregon, but he didn't get offered. He didn't get offered. I don't give a shit what anybody says. The bottom line is there's not been a big difference there. You look at Sark. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not even bad-mouthing Sark. Good for him. Texas went to the playoff. Good for them, right? But think about it. If you look at the first 2 years, Venables has more wins. He beat the best Texas team of the last 15 years that had 11 guys get drafted from it. He beat them. Nobody gives him any love for it because they lost to Kansas and they lost to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, everybody gives them props until you get beat by them. And Kansas, I get it, but it's not the Kansas that you're freaking thinking about. This is Lance Leipold's one of the best coaches in the country. Period.
Agreed.
So should you have lost the game? No. But it's easy to do. I mean, the way that the narratives go. But here's the thing that I would tell you. Because those narratives are out there, John, because those narratives are out there, you've got these coaches that are in these kids' ears because they all want the same guys. And they're like, hey, Venables ain't going to be there in 2 years. Why would you go to Oklahoma? I get it. He produces talent and stuff, but why would you go there? Hey. By doing it when they did, they added inflation to it, to his contract already, this essentially. And they took that out of the realm. Does it mean that he couldn't get fired? No, but they're fully invested in it. And I think it was, first of all, it was telling him that we believe in what you're doing. This is our commitment to you. And it was smart because he did it right before the champion. Huge weekend, the biggest weekend in the summer for recruiting. It was genius by Josie. Genius move. It takes
it just shows he knows what he's doing. He knows.
Shit, yes, he knows what he's doing. He's the best AD in the country.
That might be the steal of the century, man. Like,
yeah, and I mean, yeah, because BV could have been like, no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, You lock him up now, you run the risk of him being super successful and somebody
Facts.
offering him, you know what I mean? Like the big
Facts.
bag, you know what I mean? I don't think he would take it because I think Oklahoma is where he wanted to be and he was waiting for, his opportunity to come to
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I don't believe BV's like that, but I mean, why take a risk, man? If you can lock him up, lock him up.
No, I get it. And that was some of the stupid narrative that was going around there by especially Texas fans, which was funny to me that they're talking all this shit and they're like, we're not afraid of him. Well, then why would you care? If it didn't shake you up the way I was talking about, because I pissed a lot of people off with that video.
Yeah.
If it didn't get you shook and didn't get you worried, then you would have been excited about the extension. If you really thought Venables is as bad as you say he is,
you should be proud.
You should be excited as shit. I mean, hey, I hope Sark stays there forever.
Yeah, I do.
Tell you, I hope he stays forever. Because he's 7-win Sark until he can win 10 games or more multiple times. It don't get easier in the SEC. We damn sure know that. And Texas, we know, always wins the offseason championship. They always do.
Yeah. That's why I tell all my family back home in Nebraska. I'm like, man, y'all been winning the offseason for the last 20 years. Y'all got to get it right.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, it was
That's why I think it was a smart move. It was a smart move. A ridiculously smart move to do that. Mm-hmm. So whether or not, I mean, I don't see the risk in it whatsoever, because here's the deal. And if you think, knowing what we know about OU and about us as fans at OU, yes, Brent Venables, you got to go in there and make noise this year. You do. Do you have to win 10 or 11 games? Probably not. 8 or 9 would be good. The floor better not be below 8 probably, or else you're probably a little shaky, or you better damn sure be a little better in 2025, which I still think is the target year for OU to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think context of some of the games matters too. You know what I mean? I could imagine, a couple close games, maybe not getting a call or the ball bounces the wrong way could put us somewhere in that 8, but I think, say perhaps they only win 7 games next year. I think context is something. Are we getting blown out, or are we in a 1-score game coming down to the end and losing on the last second field goal type situations? Mm-hmm. I think some context matters. Not every loss is a bad loss. I'm not saying some losses are good. Well,
the road is a tough place to live in the SEC, man. The road is a tough place to live in the SEC.
And our schedule doesn't do us any favors either.
No, it doesn't. It's not Texas' schedule in the SEC for sure.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. And I still think Oklahoma probably has a better chance of having a better record than Texas, even with Texas, like
being battle tested is a good thing, right? I mean, I think you get battle tested from week 1 of SEC play. First week, you get tested.
Yeah, they're good.
Week 2, week 2 as well. You go to Auburn, one of the toughest places in the league to play. Hugh Freeze is a good coach. He's a piece of shit for a person, but he's a good coach. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a tough environment. No two ways around it.
Yeah.
If you can find a way to get to the Texas game unbeaten, or maybe even just 1 loss, you're in the thick of things and you've already been tested.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get to the Texas game, you have 1 loss, you're going to feel good about your chances. Undefeated or 1 loss. After that, Ole Miss. Okay. I know everybody wants to. I heard it again from SEC Mike last night that they're national championship contenders. Get the out of here. What are you kidding me?
They won the portal.
I'm a fan of Lane Kiffin for his trolling ability. He's going to have to win one first. You're going to have to win some shit but I'm going to put you up there. It's going to be a tough place to go win as well. They do have a talented team. I think that's a tough one. That's one of the ones that I've been saying lately. I'm more worried about Tennessee at home and Alabama at home than I am about Ole Miss or Missouri on the road. Don't give a shit about Mizzou at all.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough game.
They've talked themselves into doing ass whipping, I think.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. I think I think that Tennessee game is big because it's obviously a home game, and that's the first. We got to protect the crib against the SEC, and it is a big game. It's a sneaky big game in my opinion. Sneaky big game.
Oh, numbnuts. You never cease to amaze me, numbnuts. He only won the freaking Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Numbnuts. Dumb stuff like that. Yeah, it mattered that he went. You know what? What the hell was Texas doing during that time? I don't remember anything coming out of them at that point. Yeah, they're gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. There's a lot of negative recruiting that goes around. Oh, look. I'm not saying that Oklahoma doesn't negative recruit too. They probably do. Who cares?
I don't know if it's so much negative though. I think it's just they're showing a contrast between
Facts.
school A, school B. Now, is it negative? No, but they're just stating facts. And now I've been a part of some negative recruiting. You know what I mean? The biggest theme, with Mike going down to Oklahoma was like, oh, a kid from Kansas is never going to have a shot in Oklahoma. He's going to get passed up because there's going to be, keep recruiting 4 and 5 stars. And in my mind, as these people are telling me that, I'm like, so what you're saying is you're unknowingly bashing my son, saying he doesn't have a chance to go down there and play, and you're saying he's not good, but yet you're recruiting my kid. So it just didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, listen, I know what kind of football player Mike is, and he's going to be just fine. He's going to go compete. He's going to run around. He's going to hit people. He's going to make plays. That's what he does. So if they bring in somebody that's better than him, okay, so be it. He's got his work cut out for him.
Well, and that's all part of it, right? I think that people are talking. I mean, when I was watching K. Chris and those guys on the Horns Down pod last night, and let me just kind of, I actually want to. Are you insane, bro? You're trying to get booted again? Is that what we're doing? First of all, the Oklahoma Athletic Department has been running a profit for a very long time. They haven't used university money since 2009. The money, whatever issues you think the money issues are at Oklahoma, that has shit to do with the Oklahoma Athletic Department. So don't be a dumbass. At least know what you're talking about. If you're gonna say stupid shit, you better make sure it's right here. You know this. Oh my God. Here we go. Strip mine team, and by last season won 10 games and beat Texas. He wasn't going anywhere unless he wants to. No, and you're right, Michael. That's what we're talking about. I don't think that, look, there was no risk there. And again, they didn't even really change the salary. I mean, $70,000 a year, that's a truck. That's a truck these days.
All reward. No risk, all reward.
No risk, all reward. They were going to, I mean, look, we're talking again, they'll still be, if they decided to fire him at year 4 or whatever it is of this deal, they would still pay the same amount plus $400,000 to get rid of him. There's nothing, I mean, there's no added risk here. On top of that, he's been in the top 10 of recruiting and beaten Texas and won 10 games in his second season on a program that was trashed out on its way out, on Lincoln's way out. They trashed it. The guys I'm very thankful for guys like Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman and Ethan Downs and Woody. Very excited that they're coming back. That's a huge thing. That's one of the things that moved up my expectations for Oklahoma in year 3 was that leadership's there. I really believe that. I loved what you were saying before about Billy and how you've talked to Mike about, man, be a freaking sponge around that guy. Soak it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he needs to be a shadow.
Yeah, no doubt.
His shadow. He is a shadow.
Is he? Is he shadowing him? I love it.
Oh yeah, he's like turns around. You need to be right there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Hey, tell everybody what you. I love it. What you call him and Reggie Powers III.
Oh, Fright Night. Yeah. Friday the 13th and the Boogeyman. Yeah, yeah. Hey, so I went down to a practice and one of the spring game practices. I got there a little early and JP, that's my guy. So he kind of brought me in and I kind of got the last little 10 minutes of a defensive meeting and I was watching some film. And man, when I tell you, I seen Reggie just pop some receiver in practice. And it was just, man, he popped some kid. I'm like, Reggie out here laying the wood too,
Mhm.
and I didn't really think about that until like somebody after the spring game, there's a lot of people talking about Mike and he was hitting our own people or whatever. I've always been a Bud Crawford fan. I'm a big boxer. Bud Crawford's from the
Oh,
crib. He's from
bro.
Omaha,
Oh,
and they call him the Boogeyman. He's
yes.
the Boogeyman at
Yes.
147, and I kind of jacked that and applied it to Mike. He's the Boogeyman. And then after the game, somebody posted a picture of
Terrence
Mike and
Crawford is
Reggie. I
one
think,
bad dude.
yeah, I think it was Jay took a picture of Reggie and Mike together, and they didn't realize it, but on that horror theme of the Boogeyman, and I seen his number was 13, and I was like Friday the 13th, and then I just kind of started spinning from there. Maybe I had a couple of drinks or something, and my creativity was going, but yeah, it's like I come up with Friday the 13th, and then the Boogeyman.
Yeah, the 400K is over the entire contract. It's not an extra 400,000 a year.
400K truck.
Be a pretty badass truck though.
Yeah, it would be.
Be
It
pretty
would be
badass.
for sure. It'd be like, what was that, about two, maybe three cyber trucks?
Yeah, numbnuts, you can't read very well, or your comprehension isn't very well because that's not what it said in the Oklahoman. By the way, go read it again. Go read it again because that's not what it said. It's not because of the. It's not because of. It has nothing to do with OU athletics. They've been running on profit for a long time. And the last few years, it's been closer to evening out. Like most, and they're one of the few athletic programs in the country that runs a profit. Number one, but the last few years, it's been closer to evening out. Before that, they were running a surplus of over 10 million a year for 5 straight years. You don't know what you're talking about, dumb shit. You don't know what you're talking about. Come on. Let's see. Texas had a damn good team last year, but you could tell when OU walked on the field, they were right there in the moment. Yeah. That's the whole thing, is that the fact is that they've moved at a faster pace. And it's because the expectations are what they are. And they're going to play with, the thing about Oklahoma is you can see that they're going to play with that. They don't have much to lose at this point. And particularly if you're a member of this team, you either buy in or you don't, and they're going to go out there and they're going to do what they're going to do.
I think a Brent Venables team, especially against Texas, especially last year in the Red River, I think Oklahoma looked a little more prepared and they were playing a little faster, in my opinion. From just me watching the game, that's what I saw. And I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a theme going forward. There's a different level of preparation with these Oklahoma teams, especially with
Sure.
having, a lot of guys 2 and 3 years into the program and a Stutzman and a Bowman and a Ethan Downs
Right.
that know all this stuff. And, obviously the addition of Zach Alley as well. I think that's just going to catapult us.
What are
And I
these
think
guys?
it's gonna
What have you
be-
heard about him? Because we don't get much about that. I mean, obviously, we hadn't even got to hear him talk. But what are you hearing from the guys about him?
I think they like his aggressiveness.
Mhm.
I think they like his as an attacking style defense.
Right.
And I think it's he's an extension of BV.
He is.
And I don't I just think it frees up Coach Venables to do other things. Now Coach Venables is a defensive guy and he's going to be running around the defense, but he's he's all over the practice field. I watched a little skills and drills not too long ago on that last Thursday for about 30 minutes before I got back on the road. But yeah, he's moving all over the field, getting it in. But I think the young, aggressive nature of Coach Alley frees up BV to be more of a head coach, game manager, and it's the same stuff that you've heard before. I think all that's true, and kind of from what I've seen, it's nothing new. You know what I mean? It's just
they had a top
validated
30
what I
scoring
heard.
defense at Jacksonville State. They had a top 30 scoring defense.
Yeah.
Last year,
Oh yeah. Yeah. What's crazy is I was thinking about Jacksonville State, and I was watching them play against New Mexico State.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the same
Yeah.
conference last year, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, these guys really shut New Mexico down in the second half.
They did, man.
They come out and they scored a couple touchdowns, and I was like, damn. Fast forward, now that's the same D coordinator. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I hadn't even really thought I remember thinking about Rich Rod being their coach, the head coach.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even really, it hadn't even dawned on me, but yeah, they didn't do shit the whole second half. The Aggies did.
Almost gave it
away.
They
had a nice team. That was probably one of the better NMSU teams in decades.
History. Yeah, history.
Yeah,
minus the one that went undefeated.
Yeah. How many wins? When was that? What year was that? That was a long time ago, huh?
Yeah. I want to say 60s, 70s, maybe. Yeah, long time ago. Long time ago.
Yeah. I can hear ESPN talking about the shocker that OU has given to the SEC. Yeah, it's coming. Lincoln kept trying to build Texas Tech, hiring all their guys. Lincoln could just not make good hiring decisions. I think that's part of it. I think that the other part is that, yeah, look, your mentors are your mentors. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, like the difference between him and Heupel, and I see people saying that Tennessee's not a complete team. Yeah, maybe, but the places that they're good are places that can get to you. And I'm going to tell you right now, Ian Malieva looks like the real deal to me, folks. If you're not on your game, he will get you. They've got better receivers this year than they've had. Their offensive line is very good. Their defensive line is very good. If they have a shaky area, it's definitely the secondary. But I'm glad. Go ahead.
I'm glad we're getting that Tennessee quarterback early in the SEC schedule because I don't want him. I don't want him getting a couple games under him, getting comfortable.
Yeah, well,
on the road.
I think that's where. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's where Oklahoma has an advantage is in the fact that he's not going to have seen what Venables is what they're going to scheme up for him, right? They're going to give him some looks that he hasn't seen before, particularly not having been around very long.
Not put on tape, probably too. There's not going to be able to watch it, scheme it up, and rep it in practice. Like I'm glad. So I seen that, and I was like, yeah, I'm glad we're getting that dude early.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm done listening to the numbnuts guys. Don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. We're not listening to that crap. I would tell you that, but that's what I'm telling you. But here's the difference in like Lincoln and Josh Heupel. Heupel's also been around guys like, you can say whatever you want about who was he with there at UCF? The guy from Nebraska, the Scott Frost. Scott Frost did a very good job at UCF. It's a tough place to win right now at Nebraska. Matt Rule still hadn't done it yet. People are saying he's gonna. He still hasn't yet. So when he does, we'll talk about it. But they're moving to out of the Big 12 into the Big 10 was not good for Nebraska. For their pipeline of guys that they got, worst move they could have made. They're never going to recruit the way that Ohio State's going to recruit in the Big 10. Never. You can't do it. Not being able to get those kids out of Texas because you play there a lot, hurt them bad. Mm-hmm. I like Matt Rule a lot. He still hasn't done it yet. Don't expect it for sure to happen because I think Scott Frost did a very good job at UCF and he couldn't do it. I
think he was a little distracted. He got a little distracted when he got back to Nebraska.
Probably. Yeah. Probably so. I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Are you talking about swimming there, numbnuts? Yeah, good for you guys. Good for you and your swimming trophies. Good boy. Yeah.
I think you talk about numbnuts who's typing everything in caps.
Yeah. Yeah. Who does that, by the way?
Yeah.
How old are you? 10?
Yeah.
Who does that? But Hype's done a great job. Look, it's been a flaming pile of crap at Tennessee, too.
Yeah.
Think about what he inherited after what went down with
Can't remember that guy's name that left.
oh shit, man. Yeah, Foley. No, not is it Foley? No. Shit. He was one of Alabama's best defensive coordinators that they had, but the whole McDonald's bag of cash stuff really hurt him.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google that real quick, figure that out.
Yeah, that was a funny story, man. There's a lot of crazy shit that went on with that.
Yeah, I saw Hypo was at the College World Series up there in the
What did I
box
tell
with
you about
Peyton Manning.
What I tell you about that freaking trailer park stuff? The trailer park and inbred talk will not be going on here, boys. Not happening. Jeremy Pruitt is who it was.
Yep.
Jeremy Pruitt. I don't know why the name was it was on the tip of my tongue. Yep. Zach, thank you, Zach.
I was 100% thinking Butch Jones or Brady Hoke, and I was not right.
Well, Butch Jones was there before Pruitt.
Yeah. I forgot all about Pruitt. I'd have never got that right. Never got it right.
Yeah, no doubt. It looked like they were starting to get it turned, but then, I mean, what happened with all those kids once he did that stuff? Oof, that was tough for Josh. And that for them to be able to flip it as quick as they did. Year 3, they win, 11 games, won the Orange Bowl, and had that quarterback not gotten hurt when he did, chances are they wouldn't have lost that. Well, they hadn't lost him yet when they lost that South Carolina game, hurt them. But they beat Alabama for the first time in 15 years. That's saying something.
Yep.
But when you win championships, the NCAA gives you millions. How many softball championships? How many gymnastics championships is what you have? Come on. Yeah, look, the softball program is probably going to win another one.
Listen, I haven't followed college softball, women's college softball recruiting like I have here in a little bit. Man, I'm hoping and praying that the Kennedy girl comes to OU. Like if I gotta drive if Oklahoma needs me to drive an hour down to Topeka to talk to her parents, just let me know. I'll do whatever y'all need.
Handle that, big dog.
That girl needs to be in Norman.
I wonder. I can't imagine that she's going anywhere else. The money's not going to be the problem. They'll match or go over whatever anybody else will go. And with her, and I don't think that her not choosing OU is the end of the world either. Because I think Kirsten Deal was showing that she's ready to kind of be. If you add her to it, that's a 1-2 punch that nobody touches.
Oh yeah, she's
She's amazing. Amazing. She's carried Stanford to the World Series 2 years in a row. I mean, what else did they have? Not much.
Not much. Yeah. Not much at all. Yeah, she's impressive.
It's fun.
And I know, her little brother was the same class as Mike. So his name is BJ Kennedy. Yeah, he went to Cal. He went to Cal. So I've talked to him a lot. I know him very. Yeah, I know him very well, so I might get on the horn and be like, "Hey, man, what's up with your sister, man? Let's get it down to Norman."
Attaboy. Yeah, you ought to get a hold of them. Find out. I'm sure they wouldn't mind. They wouldn't mind the help. Yeah. Wouldn't mind the help. Yeah. Again, look, I think we appreciate you coming in and talking with us a little bit, Mike. And just when you identify the differences, to me, I just wanted to kind of get you to come in here and just kind of talk about what you've seen from this. I mean, you were talking about the last time we had you on that really you were kind of hoping K-State. It's close to home. You'd made relationships. Yep. You already had relationships with some of the staff. I think that obviously they have a fantastic coaching staff there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when you saw what it was going to be like to come to a place like this and have an opportunity to play for Coach Venables and his staff, it was kind of a no-brainer for you guys, was it not?
Too much. It was too good to pass up.
Yeah.
Too good to pass up. Like it was a no-brainer, but like I felt like if you would have chose somewhere else, in my head there would have been like, man, what if, we went to Oklahoma? And that kind of got to me a little bit. And I'm like, man, Oklahoma's really there. You know what I mean? They're a little bit more of a pressure in a situation than I thought it was going to be. Because
Well,
like some of those schools, like you're just like, okay, like Mizzou, they were recruiting, and there was nothing ever that really impressed me about Mizzou. Places like that, and maybe Oklahoma State was, but
right, they were
it's
pressing
just
too.
like Oklahoma was always there, and they always made you think about it, and there was always that every scenario. Because I used to war game it, what if Mike goes here, what if Mike goes there, and it always made me think about like, what if we missed the Oklahoma thing, and it's just too. I think it's too good, and it was a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah. And I think, well, I mean, there's certain programs that are you're going to get an opportunity to see things and do things that you wouldn't, and particularly for this staff with Coach Hall and those guys, the way that they do things. And I mean, I'm looking at this secondary that they're putting, talking about Wimberly for next year as well. And then you go and pick up some of the guys that they're picking up. The depth that's coming through here, something, and I just wanted to kind of let you close on this one, but talk to me about what you see this group being like this year. I mean, everybody's talking a lot about Billy Bowman. Mm-hmm. And Robert Spears Jennings is probably being talked about a little less than what he probably should be, because he's a stud too, right?
He's a killer.
But I think there's a lot of people sleeping on Peyton Bowen.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a guy that you could probably play him anywhere as far as coverage skills, hitting. He's that dude. They were kind of comparing him with, the difference. I know a lot of people are going to say Caleb Downs is just, 10 times better. He got more than twice the snaps last year as well. Didn't get banged up. I think that you might see a huge year out of Peyton Bowen too.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Reggie and your son. I mean, there's a group of kids back there that, you're not going to lose a ton from player to player. And they keep on loading more talent in there, right?
Yeah. And, I think, there has to be, you always hear competitive depth, right? Like, you gotta be ready for SEC, and you gotta be able to put your best players on the field. And,
absolutely,
not knocking on wood, anybody gets injured, but, you got some capable guys behind, Robert Spears Jennings and Billy Bowman and those guys. So, I mean, I don't think you can replace those guys. It's not like, if Billy, maybe, has a little game where he has to miss, like you can put somebody in there saying Mike or Reggie's Billy Bowman, because they're not. But, they got capable backups that can maybe help us fill in when we're in a pinch or in a bind, and it's competition, man. Competition drives everything. Competition makes everybody better. And
right.
it's you gotta have it. You gotta have people, young guys coming up and pushing you and not letting you get complacent. You gotta be comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's a business, and those dudes, they know what they're getting into.
Welcome into the show, Go Dogs 84. Yeah, we're talking to Mike Boganowski Sr. His son, Mike Boganowski Jr., is a freshman safety at Oklahoma, out of the Manhattan, Kansas area. There, what high school again was it? Just now
We
that
went
I'm
to Junction City High School.
Right. So he's part of the future of this program. So yeah, welcome into the show, man. We appreciate you coming in. Ready for the season to start. Have great guests, and someone got to come in and yeah, that's just numbnuts, because going to disrespect all he wants to. Let him. What a huge pickup though this week of CJ Nixon. This is something that Cody was on here a couple of weeks ago talking about, that Oklahoma State was going to get him. It was a basketball question. CJ Nixon might be that dude, right? as far as defensive end guys too. I mean, they just keep on adding guys like this.
Yep.
I mean,
it's a testament, man. It's a testament to BV and the staff. You know,
6'5",
they're doing a great
220,
job.
another top 100 guy in the country. He's their number one ranked recruit on 247. Huge, another in-state guy. Another Oklahoma guy. It's just like we were talking about, we've been talking about, I was on a show with a bunch of the Alabama guys, and they were talking about, we've been talking about what it's been going on with Justice Terry and Gibson and all that stuff, leaving their commitments from USC. When you start looking at it, yeah, Kirby's going to put a wall up around Georgia. You're not going to get his best guys. You're not getting Oklahoma's either. It's just not going to happen. And it has to be that way. It has to be that way. So a big get for OU. I think, let him play basketball a little bit, man. He's not going to play till the season's over anyway, but we're talking 6'5", 220 as it is right now. A lot of speed, rangy kid. Look, Danny Okoye on the other side. You've got these kids, you just keep on loading them up and getting them in here. You have another Trent Wilson on the D line that you've got committed right now. Composite 4-star, another big time get on that defense. This is a different Oklahoma than what people are used to seeing. I'll tell you that much.
You got to start whooping people up front, and we're starting. You got to start whooping people up front. You got to win the line of scrimmage.
Facts.
It has to happen.
Facts.
And we need that big guy from Florida, Floyd McCard. Like that, I don't know if you've watched much of that kid's tape. That dude is special, man. He is going to be something. The Max Granville going to Penn State hurt. I really like that kid. He was one of my favorites in this class.
I was surprised about that one.
I thought we had him.
Me too.
Thought we had him. But man, if we get
that's a big grab for Penn State, right? That was a big grab for Penn State.
Man,
big grab.
That hurt.
Yeah, that one hurt.
Once they said Texas A&M was out of the running, I was like, we got him. And then
it was Oklahoma after that, right?
Futurecast.
Yeah.
I went to a dinner. I went to one dinner. I didn't check my phone for 2 hours. Come out, and man, I sat in my truck for 5 minutes thinking, how did this happen? Before I put it in drive and went home.
Film. I was watching PG show, and he was talking about him that day, and I was like, man, I gotta go watch more of this guy's film. And I looked.
Ooh.
He just looks.
Which one you talking about, Granville or Bacard?
Granville.
Oh yeah, he's man. And hey, if you see some of his hurdles, his track and field, 220 running the hurdles like that, come on, man, that's a freak, dude. That is a freak of nature.
Man, it's a grown ass man, is what that kid was. Damn. I hope they stay on him. I hope they stay on him.
Oh, have to.
Mm-hmm.
Have to. It's not over till the signing day.
Facts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, Timothy Green, if West Virginia could, put a slap on Penn State, that'd be cool. Go handle that. Come on, Neil Brown, get it done. Love to see that. Let's see, dogs. We can't wait for the home and home, Oklahoma versus Georgia. Yeah, man, we're excited about that one. But I'm excited about. Look, we're gonna find out what happens this year. I do think that you're seeing them headed in the right direction. I really appreciate you coming in and giving us some insight into it, man. It's always good to talk to you.
Anytime.
Well. Going camping this weekend?
Yeah, man. I'm about to go load up and going out to Milford Lake. Enjoy some camping and fishing. It's gonna be a little windy today, but yeah,
Yeah.
Get out there and have some fun and enjoy.
Heck yeah, enjoy that retirement. Enjoy that retirement, man.
Yeah,
damn.
For sure. I'm trying.
Well, hey, man, anytime you'd like to come on the show, we'd love to have you, man. So appreciate you joining us, and you guys enjoy your week and be safe out there, okay?
All right. Thanks, bro.
All right, man. Talk to you later. Horns down.
Yep.
Mike Boganowski Sr., thanks for joining the show, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, let's see who hopefully we Ogbo. Yeah, that'd be nice, right? What's good for Penn State is bad for West Virginia, that being the first game we play. Yeah, no doubt. But he's not going to be there the first game this year, though. So you'll be good. West Virginia, PSU will be a hell of a game. It was a hell of a game last year. You get them at home this year, right? Yeah. Hey, man, Big Mike's a cool dude, man. He's a cool dude. He just retired from the Army. I think he was a major. I want to say he was a major in the Army. And yeah, man, he's a hardcore guy. He played college football himself in New Mexico State, which is where I got my undergrad degree. So yeah, he's one of those. He's a cool cat. Played with the guy that I played that played quarterback for my high school team whenever I played. So he played with him his last year, I guess it was. So got a little connection there. Like, and his kid is a bad dude. Kid is a bad dude. So we're excited about that. Let's see. Yeah, I always throw them horns down. And we'll talk a little bit about the brand.
The brand has finally returned. F*** your brand.
What's up there, Trent? What's up there? Hey, man, how about that CJ Nixon thing? Glad he came to OU. We're starting to worry a little bit about it with the basketball deal. It sounded like at first they were concerned about it and not going to let him try to play at OU, but I don't see why you wouldn't, man. I can think of I always think of Julius Peppers on that, and they let him play at Carolina. The dude's a freaking Hall of Famer. This guy's that dude that can go do that. Let him be. Let him play. Let him play. Let him play. But yeah, so again, just kind of to kind of sum it all up, I would really tell everybody that, again, when you start talking about all this stuff with Brent Venables, and it is what it is, talking about, I thought that the narrative going around there was a little ridiculous about that he didn't deserve the extension. We're talking about $70,000 a year of a raise over the life of the contract. They added 2 years to it, and they did it so that nobody can negative recruit saying that he's not going to be there in 2 years because they're going to get rid of him. First off, that if you're building the relationships that he's building, and this is the biggest part of it to me, the most important thing about it to me, they're building relationships. They're not doing it off of money and flash and bullshit. They're doing it off of being real. If you listen to what Afalava said last night, I took 3 things from that. The first thing was talking about and you start, Cody, I really wish I hope Cody was watching that one last night, because he was saying he didn't know anything about the soul mission and all that kind of stuff, and doubted it all that was a Clemson thing. The BV doesn't align with Clemson anymore. Whatever. The first thing you heard was real. Bill Bedenbaugh was real. BV was real. Loved the soul mission. He talked a lot about that. And competition was the other thing too. Being around his boys, fighting with his teammates. Look, it was something that he likes, that he wanted to be challenged. That was the last thing, that he wanted to be challenged. I think it's a lock there, guys. It felt to me, if you watch that one, it felt to me like that was for sure. Yeah, it's something, but they did sweep. They did sweep Oklahoma State, though. Just saying. But as far as basketball is concerned, that's not his biggest thing. I think that he wants to play basketball, but his future isn't football. 6'5" isn't big enough to get to the NBA, really. It means you got to be a combo guard at 6'5". You know what I mean? Some point guards are 6'5". Let's stay off of any of this. I ain't talking about that shit from last night or the ridiculous election. I didn't even watch it last night though either. So, but I did hear a lot of crazy shit about it. They were fighting about their golf handicaps, who had a better handicap. That's what we needed to hear, I'm sure. Crazy. Moser needs all the help he can get. Moser definitely needs help, all the help he can get. Yeah, it was pretty bad last year, right? Do you like this new guy? Yeah, me too, Sooner. I want to say thanks a lot for everybody that's come in. Wiley Litchford, I think you may be fairly new to the show, at least. I mean, we've had a lot of folks in here lately. If you haven't already become a subscriber to our channel, I hope you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. That's the main way that you can help us as creators. It's huge for us just to make sure that you do it. If you share us with your friends, if you like talking college ball, share us with your friends, you know. Trent, I appreciate you coming in as well. Sooner Cowboys, Timothy Green, R. Moosehead, Satterfield, Jimmy Satterfield, Go Dogs 84. Again, I appreciate you coming in. Coach Ricks as well. Benji. Let's see who else we got. A bunch of people. Stink ass cat. Rob 077, Bishop Frank, C. John, Greg Williams, Randy Davidson, Zach Reynolds. Who else we got? Randy Davidson, Zach Reynolds, C. John. Let's see. Trying to make. Oh yeah, Michael Deesh. Appreciate you coming back. Good to see you back in here as well. Mars Jams. All the regulars are here. The coach even showed up in here talking all that. He said that's half my truck, right? Yeah, the raise is about half of the truck that you just bought. Jay Chapman. Who else we got? I know I saw Hank and obviously Stephen G. Sugoi English 1. That's cool. I don't know if I remember you. What else we got? Man, got a lot of folks in here. We've been getting some new people in here pretty much every week. We appreciate that. That's good stuff. Every time we go on, we got a couple of new guys in here. Even you trolls don't bother me that much until you start bringing up stupid shit like trailer parks and inbreeding. I'm not going to listen to that crap. Hankster? Where's Hankster? I haven't seen him say anything in a while. Lucas James, thanks for coming in. Hey guys, yeah. In the end, I really do believe that they're headed in the right direction. Whether it's this year, next year, whenever it is, the biggest difference in regards is their leadership, where they're headed. You know, he's not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to be easy for you to play at Oklahoma. He's telling you that I'm trying to replace you every year on the roster. That's a hard thing to hear for a lot of people, but it's what they better hear. If you really want to get the most out of guys and create a culture of competition and not money, competition. That's how you do it. Texas has always had all the resources in comparison. Numbnuts is in there saying stupid shit like that, but the truth is the resources have never mattered. They got $500 million off of that trashy Longhorn network. Now they have to give the shit away for free on streaming. None of it ever mattered. It destroyed the conference, got rid of any other good program aside from, the programs that had been the biggest pieces of the Big 8, Big 12, Southwest Conference. They all said, to hell with that. We're out. And yet they still, after that deal, they won one conference title. Look, it's never been about money. And to do it the way that they're doing it, it goes to show you that they identify talent as along lines with it. Look at these guys that are recruiting. I know there's been people saying dumb stuff. Anybody want to talk about Miguel Chavis right now? And who he is and what he is? 5-star PJ Adebawore. Then Danny Okoye. Now Nixon. Plus Wyatt Gilmore. They're getting guys in the portal. You don't think they want to play for Miguel Chavis? The people that are saying that, Oklahoma fans, you're insane. He belongs. And no, Nixon, I expect that I guess he could play tight end, but it doesn't sound like it. I think he's going to be a defensive end, edge rusher. He's got that kind of size. Could be that dude. Listen, it's going to always be about money. There's always going to be a money element to this. This is where we are. I was saying we had the guy that he jumped in, and it was on a video that was from probably almost a month old. And he said that about enjoy college football while you can. And I thought, or no, actually it was one from last week. But anyway, I hadn't been getting comments on it the last 3 or 4 days anyway. But I was like, what? And then I said something, I was like, college football is not going anywhere. It's changing for sure. But the more it changes, the more you're going to know that it's going to take more than just a bag full of cash. If these kids really want to make the real money, because you're never going to make the same amount of guys that are those max contract dudes in the NFL. It's about the same amount of guys that are going to get the biggest bags of cash at this level too. That's got to die down some, especially now that they're going to actually do revenue sharing type of stuff. You're not going to see it continue to just be out of whack. And you know why? Because the out of whack NIL stuff has actually not really worked out for anybody. Texas A&M. We hadn't seen it work out for Ole Miss. Has been as busy in the portal as anybody over the last few years. Yeah, they're winning 10 and 11 games. They're not beating Georgia. They're not beating Alabama. Probably not going to beat Oklahoma this year. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. They get them at home. But I'm telling you this, we haven't really seen the portal work that way. You still have to build through your high school recruiting. There's no two ways around it. If your high school recruiting isn't up to par, you're not going to win. You have to build your foundation there first. Oklahoma's definitely doing that. That idea that you can't recruit elite talent to Norman, just another excuse by Lincoln Riley for not getting it done. And I'm sure Trojan Fight and the boys are realizing that at this point. It is what it is. This is absolutely right, Greg. If you're not recruiting on relationships first and making it more about the relationships that you build, you're not going to get the guys to win. You're not going to do it. Absolutely. That's another one of the biggest things. We were talking about it with Big Mike just now. Think about this. There's a lot of guys out there in this country that play football. A lot of guys that are the same measurable. I think about Ryan Foji. You know, he's 6'5", 275. That's the exact same size as the 5-star kids. Both of them. He just doesn't go to camps as much. But he was number 400 and something, you know, when he first committed to OU, he was in the 400s. He's in the top 100 now. He may end up being a 5-star by the time it's all said and done. You got to look at it in terms of, you know what, it's not just about stars all the time. In fact, you don't really know what they are until later anyway. But when you look at Andrew Babalola, he's 6'6", 280. So 1 inch taller and 5 more pounds. Michael Fasusi, 6'5", 295. He's got a few pounds on him. So far, according to these numbers here. Same size though. You know? It tells you a lot. But these guys are out there identifying talent. And yeah, they're getting them they're identifying and making sure that they're building relationships with them and making sure that they lock them in. Doesn't mean that they're not going to have to pay for them. You're gonna. So what? Jaden Jackson, Danny Okoye, these are guys that, yeah, you want to talk about value? Jaden Jackson was in the 400s. He was playing right next to David Stone at IMG, getting no love. What the hell? craziest shit I've ever seen. He may be more ready than Stoney is at this point, size-wise, and he's just a little more polished. But I think mid-season rolls around, Stoney's right there. He's added the weight that he's had to add. Getting Dominic Williams was huge. Well, how did they do that? You think they got more money than Texas? No. You think they got more money than LSU? Probably not. They can say that they overpaid and all that other bullshit. They paid on par with what they had to pay. There's no two ways around it. But this is a grown-ass man, Dominic Williams is. He's ready to go in the SEC. He's an SEC-level defensive lineman. DeJoun Terry, same thing. He's already been in the SEC. He's ready to rock. You got to hope that G-Baby becomes more consistent. He's put the weight on now. He's flashed a lot. Champ Sanders. Keep hearing lots of good things out of that guy. Little undersized as far as height was concerned, but he's a big boy. He was always a big boy. The difference that I had saw between him and his junior and his senior film is he had put a lot of muscle on and compared to his junior year, and his speed and explosion was insane. And now he's got a year under Schmitty. They've got at least 6-7 man rotation in there now. They're ready to rock and roll right there. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I did see that. DG being the Heisman favorite. Look, man, I like that. Hey, look, I hope he gets in there and has a real shot at it. I do. I think you better beat Ohio State, though, at home. You better beat Ohio State at home. And Ohio State is as loaded as it gets. Everywhere. As loaded as it gets. Except for, the quarterback is the question, but how good do you have to be with all those guys? How good do you have to be? You just have to not screw it up. I don't know that it's the same thing for DG. I don't know that it is. We'll see, though. He's going to finish. It'll be if he gets Babalola or Michael Fasusi, and I'm telling you, I think he's going to get one of them. And apparently Babalola, nobody really thought that was going to happen. He's a smart kid. Stanford has kind of been that guy, but apparently he's like really kind of getting to know what's going on with the school side of things. That was what he spent a lot of his time over the Champion Barbecue weekend doing, was talking to professors and what he's talking. There's a chance. I think if it's anybody but Stanford, it's going to be Oklahoma. Fasusi, I still think he's coming to OU. I don't think he's going to Texas. I know Texas thinks so. I'm listening to Coop. Him and PG have been talking to Fasusi. It sounds like to them he's going to be an Oklahoma kid. If they get one of them, and along with Afalava, and any of these, they're still in for, who's that other kid that they're still in for a couple of kids, right? Other than that. Ogumoro, is he already locked in somewhere? Yeah, Tennessee. Yeah, that's the kid that. Yeah, Newman got ATM. Looks like they're kind of still in on that Kalani Avalu a little bit, but he's cooled on him a bit. And then Lamont Rogers is the other one that hasn't. And he's apparently heating up on him a little bit. Look, it is what it is. But if you get Afalava today in either one of those 5-star guys, it's already the best offensive line haul in the history of these recruiting rankings, for sure. Overall. Think about it. They've had great offensive linemen here, but not all of them were ranked correctly. Most of them are 3 stars. You know, hell, Trent Williams is a freaking 3-star. The best ever. Freaking 3-star. That's insane to me. When Williams joined, the other guy went to Texas. It was a good thing because it gives Stone and Jackson room to grow faster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. As far as, you're talking about the kid from Cincinnati that I've already forgotten his name. Yeah, I get it. I agree with that. You just don't see what? Claiming what? A list of freshmen that, yeah. Stone and Jackson are 40, 50 pounds bigger. Yeah. I look, you could see, look, I don't think they start right away. I think you might end up see them. They're going to get playing time though. It's a rotation, guys. It's a rotation. And you have to, and on top of that, man, injuries happen. They happen in every league, but they certainly happen in this league, you know. So you can't have a huge drop off. But the fact is, no, I agree with this part. It gives them room to grow faster, but it also, look, here's the one thing I would say. When you start looking at the guys that are in that room right now, I mean, we're talking 6'8" deep, and there's not a huge difference between any of these guys. Now, some of them are unproven, but I think that they've got, and Todd Bates has never coached a kid on the D-line coming into Oklahoma. He had never coached a kid, whether it was Jacksonville State or at Clemson, never coached a kid on the D-line that wasn't an all-conference selection at least once. Never. So, again, it's not just about the fact that they can identify. They can also develop here. Whoever Numbnuts was saying last week that they don't develop here. Yes, they develop. That's what they do. You talk about Bill Bedenbaugh. He's not what people bitch about with him is he hasn't gotten those 5-star guys, the blue chippers. He's had to do, he's had to develop what he saw, but he identified it. And again, I would tell you that it's not all about that. First off, it's hard. There's not a ton of 5-star offensive linemen out there. There's just those are the big guys. How many dudes have you met or seen in your life that are 6'5" and over 270 pounds? How many dudes have you seen like that in your everyday life? They're just not that many of them. There's just not. Who is the favorite then? Maybe Carson Beck? I say Carson Beck probably. Don't tell me freaking Quinn Ewers because I ain't buying that one. He's going to have to. Hoping Jay can elevate his elite level to elite. He will. He will. I think he's going to. And I also think that I've told you guys a lot that I thought that the O-line talk about them, and yes, they're unproven, whatever. They've got more starts on the offensive line than Texas. They've got more starts on the offensive line than Georgia. They've got more starts on the offensive line than Bama. They're at other places, but they've got more starts there. You're hearing that Spencer Brown's coming around pretty well. You've heard that Fabici Wiwu is apparently just killing it out there right now. I still think a lot of Josh Bates. I still think a lot of those kids that are redshirt freshmen / sophomore guys. I think Jacob Sexton is the leader of that offensive line. But I think these kids that are redshirt freshmen and sophomore guys on that offensive line are going to show up in EPL. And then they've got guys. The depth is going to be good there too. I think it's been overblown already, but I think it's going to prove that. And really, all you have to do if you're Jackson, you don't have to go win the Heisman this year. You've got enough weapons that you don't have to make any stupid throws. You don't have to. Take a sack if you have to. Run the clock. Let your defense carry the way. That's the beauty of this football team is you do not have to score on every possession like you used to under Lincoln Riley. You don't have to. Because At worst, I could see them being top 20. It's really how I feel about it on defense. If you're a top 20 defense, you can be a top 30, 40 offense and be fine. I think they're going to be better than that. The last thing I worry about is Oklahoma offense. Not with the studs. They have at every position. Offensive on the receiver room. If there's a better one, I think it's in Columbus, Ohio, and that's it. That's it. The running back room, if there's a better one, maybe Ohio State as well. But I think their first two guys are really good. I don't know really what they are behind that. But, I mean, look, they do well. I would also say that Georgia's running back room is pretty solid. But the bottom line, whether they're underrated or any of that other kind of stuff, because you see that. You see that. They're going to continue underrating Brent Venables because for whatever reason, they're just not loving on him. They're saddling him with the 6 and 7 year instead of looking at it for what it really was, which was he took over a team that wasn't what Lincoln Riley had. And it wasn't that good. They weren't that good on defense to begin with, and they lost 13 guys off of the depth chart, off of the 3 deep depth chart. 13 guys either went to the draft, left in some way. 45 guys they lost off that team, 2 5-star quarterbacks. The difference in that first year, and Oklahoma still won more than they won in that first year at Texas. I saw where somebody in there was saying that it wasn't that much better as far as roster was concerned the first year at Texas. Bullshit. Every one of those guys that went into the draft last year was on that roster, plus Bijan Robinson and Roschon. Plus they had 3 serviceable quarterbacks, not 1. Hudson Card, Casey. Who was that other kid right behind them? They were, look, they could play quarterback. They were good enough that they took a freaking 28-7 lead on Oklahoma. And 5 other halftime leads that they gagged up. So don't tell me that stuff. It's not the same. Oklahoma turned over basically the entire roster by year 2. Half of it the first year, the other half by the second. Oh, yeah, he's definitely well known in the NFL. Heck yeah. No, I mean, if you think about the guys that are out there, offensive tackles alone, he's got 11 starters. 11 starters. There's 32 teams. That's a third. Well, I guess it'd be 1/6. I'm saying 11 starters at either side. So out of 64 guys, that's pretty good, though. 11 starters. But he's got guys on pretty much every team. Pretty much every team's too deep if they're worth this shit. Appreciate the breakdown. Which one? What, the breakdown of the roster? That's the thing. And look, again, that doesn't mean that anybody's satisfied with anything. And least of all, Brent Venables is not satisfied with anything that they've done. Where's that last video that I had? Let me make sure which one this is real quick before I.
Sometimes, what's reported and what actually.
Oh, we're going to do that real quick. I want to go kind of back to this, though. They both do. Bill Bedenbaugh's about to become if he ends up getting one of these 5-star kids, let's look at who they got right now. But let's think about this with what they have. Let's talk about their commits. If he ends up with these guys, look at what he has right now. He's got Ryan Foji. He's a top 100 as far as the composite. He's a top 100 kid, 4.247. I think he's just outside of it on 3. Then you've got hoping that you end up with Afalava. You also have Owen Hollenbeck, stud, 6'2", 315. That's another kid that's, I mean, this is kind of a, I think that's going to be in the Hollenbeck kid, going to be one of your walk-on kids. I don't know. Anyway, with Foji, you add in Afalava right now. You got possibility of one that's a 5-star. Afalava's a solid 4. Then if you get either one, Babaloa or Fasusi, we're talking about possibility of 2 5-stars, a high-end 4-star. And I mean, good grief. Plus, you just sent a kid that, you know, you talk about Tyler Guyton's another first rounder, the back-to-back first rounders. The dude was a defensive tackle that never freaking played at TCU. And in 2 seasons, he turned him into a first rounder. It's not even, I mean, it's not just not even fair. So, yeah, better be glad for all the people that have talked shit about what his recruiting is. He's going to end up probably becoming recruiter of the year. Whether he does or not, yeah, he deserves a raise. They both do. Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's talk about Emmett Jones. What the hell? He's just killing it. Elijah Thomas, wow. Right? Marcus Harris, wow. Grayson Harris, I like that kid a lot. Emmanuel Choice is severely underrated. You want to look at his offers? They could call him a 3-star if they want to. SU wanted him. Nebraska wanted him. Texas A&M wanted him. Texas also offered him. Let me give you all his offers. SEC offers. Let's just give SEC offers. I'll just give it to you that way. Well, no, but Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mizzou, Florida, Arkansas, A&M, and Oklahoma. The only one I didn't see was Alabama, Georgia, and Alabama. Yeah, he's a 3-star, all right. Watch this film. Tell me what you think then. But, I mean, it's insanity. And it's, again, these guys are continuing to put together. We're talking about last year. What does he go do last year? Ooh, that last year's class was unbelievable, too. I mean, let me go back to it real just to kind of think about that a little bit more again. Zion Kearney, top 150, stud, right? Ivan Carrion, top 250, stud, 6'6", 200-pound kid. Might end up playing some this year. They've been talking a lot about him lately. Good luck with him in the red zone, you know? I mean, those are huge gets. Huge gets. And then Zion Reagan's as well. I mean, man. Yeah, give him a raise. Give the dude a raise already. Just give the dude a raise. KJ Daniels, Zion Reagan's. I mean, jeez. Yeah, they're nasty. Love it. Just love it. And then going and getting Deion Burks. It wasn't even quite. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Deion Burks. What are you, crazy? He's probably going to be one and done and going to the league. He's turned it around in there, man. You know, that first year, what were they talking about? You had basically Marvin was the only guy that was really getting it done. The other guys were struggling. Had a lot of drop balls, a lot of bad route running. They turn it around. I mean, Jaden Gibson, think about Jaden Gibson and what he's becoming. I don't care who recruited him, but you're seeing development here. Development's happening. We had talked about Jacquez Petaway. He was in that class from last year. He gets his opportunity. A lot of, you know, they were talking last night on K. Chris's show. He could end up being stuck in a position where he kind of has to get into the portal. You have to get used to that part. I think as fans, you kind of got to get used to that, is that you can't get super attached because you just don't know what's going to happen. And we tend to want to do that. But the bottom line is this is a competition game, and that's the other thing is there's no BSing. I got it again, real. You got real out of Afalava said it last night. It's always real with these guys. There's no sunshine blowing up their ass. It's not happening. You got to come in here and win your job. If you're not up to par, you got to go. Day drinking is best for you, says recruiter. Yeah. Day drinking is the best. Yeah, I feel you, man. So then that's the whole thing, is to be honest with you. Oh, dude, yes. Well, and looks, I want to give EJ as much credit as possible on everything, but I would tell you a lot of that has to do with the fact that freaking Stoops was just a all heart, worked his ass off, coach's kid, man. I mean, you know, it meant something to him to be an Oklahoma Sooner. You know, it meant something to him. I think he's going to end up being that kind of, you know, Julian Edelman type of dude when he gets to the league too. So, by the way, I love his show. They're a trip, but I like Julian Edelman, and it's just that dude that wants to fight. Remember him and Billy getting in that fight during spring practice last year? That was freaking awesome. I love that video. Hard nosed though, and that's the attitude that this team has taken on. Look, it's all about development. And I mean, look, he won't get in until it's time. But look how long it took Jaden Gibson to catch on. I mean, that first year, and then it looked like that second year, he really hadn't come through. I mean, in the spring game last year, we were like, oh, shit, he's still dropping balls. You know? Things can change over a summer even, because they did for Jaden. Me and K. Chris were talking about after the spring game that you could probably end up seeing him in the portal. Nobody wanted to see it, but it is what it. Again, you can't get too attached to anybody. All I'm saying is that we're talking about a guy that was a sub 22 or, you know, sub 22 second 200 guy, one of the best in Texas. I mean, he gets an opportunity, he's liable to shine with it. He's another guy that can take it to the house. Brennan Thompson, the dude's a freaking 10-2 100 guy. I mean, at the college level, track runner. He's got to stay healthy. But, you know, again, you have to show out here. You're not going to be able to tiptoe to and screw around in practice and then they're just going to put you in the game. You're going to have to prove that you're ready for it. It's where I think special teams is going to be big for a lot of these guys. I think it's going to be huge. You have a coordinator that's going to sell that, and it's got to be a big part of your game too. If you're not trying to win in all three phases, you're not trying to win. Yeah. I think a lot of that was in his head, though, Stephen G. I think a lot of it was in his head. And once you just have a little success, and now he's a dog. And now he's pissed off because he's getting overlooked, he thinks. Which he probably kind of is. But there ain't nothing better than freaking finding a way to motivate, right? Love it. And that's the beauty of it. So, okay, guys, we've had 500 people in here. We've got 50 likes. That's on the YouTube side. Make sure you hit that like button. You can hit the dislike button if you really want to. Just hit something. You gotta make sure that you interact with this stuff. That's the biggest thing. Look, you can help us out by super chats. We've got, in fact, the best way to give us a super chat is honestly to go through Cash App or Venmo, whichever you prefer, because they don't take 40 to 60% of it. All that's right in our description if you want to do it. And I'll get a notification right away. I would still read it during the show. If I were to miss one, I would, and definitely, take care of that. But you can find all that in the description. Get in there and check out our pod merch, hofmedia.us/pod-merch. We've actually been getting a lot of sales on that lately. But look, the best thing that you could probably do for yourself as far as this stuff is concerned, you should really jump on and take a look at Mint Mobile. Try mintmobile.com/HOF. Get unlimited talk, text, and data for 3 months, $45. Again, you get to try it without switching off your old phone service. It's an extra $45. You use the same phone. You can test it against big wireless carrier that you have right now. If it works out for you, you'll save a lot of money over the long run. Mine's working out for me, and I'm in a kind of rural area. It's on the nation's largest 5G network, which is the T-Mobile network. You get unlimited talk, text, and data. After the 3 months is like $30 a month. I'm going to still say for the two phones, $1,600 this year. That's like, you saw that they had those mini plans for the home games out and stuff. You could easily get one of those with your savings. Try mintmobile.com/HOF. Try it out. If it works out for you, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul, but you'll thank me later. Like I said, the easiest way, just hit the like button, share us with your friends. We're on our way to 4,000 subscribers. It would be fantastic to do that before the season gets underway. Would love that. But it is what it is. We hit 3,500 last week. We really appreciate everybody who's become a subscriber here in the last week or two. You can coach talent. You can't coach heart. What is a realistic, honest to goodness record for Oklahoma in the SEC this year? I think the absolute floor to me would be 8-4. 8-4. I don't see that really. I think a lot of things would probably had to have gone wrong to get there. I think they're going to go 9-3, 10-2. That's what I really think. I've been seeing that, and I think that I could see pathways to where they could do better. The idea that Missouri is really that team, it goes right by me, guys, because they win it. Yes, they won 11 games last year. Some of those games? In fact, the thicker kicker's not around. 2 of those wins were on a 60-plus yarder and a 55-yarder in games. One against K-State, one against Florida. They beat Tennessee at home. It was probably their best win was the Tennessee one, right? Couldn't beat LSU. Couldn't beat Georgia. But I mean, they played a pretty easy schedule. So I'm not buying Mizzou. I think Tennessee's better. Now, they did beat up on Tennessee, but their quarterback was so bad. I could see them going 11-1. I think, look, that's assuming that Jackson takes a huge step this year and is one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, which is not beyond the realm of possibility. And their defense is going to have to be, and that's where I think the difference is. I believe their defense is a top 20 at worst defense. I really do. I think it's the top 20 at worst defense. If it goes according to what he's done in the past, it could be a top 10, top 5 defense. But I think at worst, it's the top 20. With the depth that they have, I believe that. Particularly their secondary guys are all that. Their linebacking core is probably as good as anybody in the country. It just is. And this is year 3. They're we got a bunch of guys that are competing hard for it and get the system at this point. Zach Alley's an extension of who Brent Venables is. Was with him for 7 years. This is nothing new for him. In the end, could you have some catastrophic things happen as far as injuries are concerned? Maybe you could lose some games on the road. Look, the truth is, you still got to go out and prove it. You still got to go out and prove it. I love the idea, the fact that they get so much hate and they fly, and Venables himself flies under the radar. In fact, he doesn't give a shit about it. And I honestly don't know that his team seems to have taken on his personality in such a big way. They just have. They got a chip on their shoulder. They want to go out there and play hard. They know it's not supposed to be easy. What I would tell you is that the other reason that I really liked the extension is because I don't think you should ever have to concern yourself if you're doing the right things. If it doesn't come this year to where, look, I know we are so ready for that 11-1, go to the national championship type of season in Norman. I get it, guys. Whenever it comes, it's going to be great. I still think no matter what happens this year, they'll be better next year. If they get to the national championship this year somehow, and they get better the next year, I love it. If they don't, I still love it. But this idea that the SEC is heads above where Oklahoma can be, I don't buy that shit at all. I don't. I think it's ultra competitive. But when you say things like, well, they lost to Kansas or they lost to Oklahoma State. Yeah, they did. Texas lost to both of those teams in the last couple of years since Sark got there. But they're supposedly ready. And the Kansas that Texas beat, the Kansas that Texas got beat by went 2-10 that year. Under Sark, the Kansas team that beat Sark and them, 2-10. The Kansas that beat Oklahoma won 9 games. It's different. Yeah, there's a lot of hype, man. There is, but look, here's the deal, and a lot of it's not hype. What I'll tell you is this: the difference, I believe, is that when you start looking at the draft numbers, they're real. You can say what you want, but they are real. From year to year, they put more guys, particularly in the first 3 rounds of the draft, than any other. So you've got, even on the worst teams in the SEC, you're going to have 3, 4, 5 guys on that team that you're going to deal with that's going to be playing on Sundays later. They are. So you can't take a week off, and you're going to have and you've got some tough road environments that you're going to play in. Listen, for the people that are riding off LSU, that's risky. It's risky. Should you win? Maybe, because I don't know how much better they're going to be on defense. A lot of people are talking about they love this new DC. Now, I think that they did not help him much with recruiting and where they are on the defensive line. I think that's troublesome for them, and I don't know that they're not still kind of in trouble in that secondary too. What I would tell you is there's guys that you may not know about that come out of Louisiana, of all places, that could have been 3 stars, even 2 stars, that might be better than most guys in the country, but you just don't know. And receiver-wise, shit. They got a factory somewhere down there that they just print those guys out. Jefferson was a freaking 2-star. He's probably the best receiver in America right now in the NFL. Justin Jefferson, 2-star guy. Pump the brakes on the LSU game. We'll know a lot about them by the time you get to the game, though. What you hope for is you got no more than 2 losses when you get there. Even a loss there, still got a shot at the playoffs, because if you go in there and put up a big fight, you're going to get a lot of credit for it. In Baton Rouge, at nighttime. It's a tough season. But we're gonna see what happens. Quinn coming back for some Ackright in Dallas. Yeah, well, that defense is a lot better than the one that, picked him off a couple of times and sacked him 5 times last year. So good luck with that. And he's got a little bit of a stars don't mean. Hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you they don't mean anything, because I think that when they do get evaluated, if you get evaluated and they see that you're that guy, and a lot of times, a lot of them are getting those stars off of, as I said before, guys like Brian Hartline. He's had the quote unquote best receiving room in America since he got to Ohio State. So automatically, when he's recruiting a kid real hard and he likes a kid, Shannon Terry said that, he's going to take the word of the guy like that. I get it. You look at a guy like Larry Johnson, also at Ohio State. He's had 15 first-team All-American defensive tackles. He's the godfather. He gets it. Nigel Smith was being recruited and had an offer from them for well over a year before he chose Oklahoma. Had he chosen Ohio State, he probably becomes a 5-star. Again, it's not the end-all, be-all. What you have to look at is the offers, who they are, who's identifying them, what kind of coaches are they, what do they do as far as development's concerned. Because, again, Trent Williams is a freaking 3-star. He's the best left tackle in the history of the game. At worst, he's in the top 3 and in the conversation for that. To me, he's the best, particularly in the modern era. Nobody beats Trent. Maybe Larry Allen is right there with him. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Anthony Munoz, somebody like that. There's not many, though. This is a short list, and he was a 3-star. Yeah. We are going to see that. But again, one thing I'll say about LSU is that SC might actually get them at the right time. They've lost the last 2 years in the first game, and I don't think that FSU was better than them either game, quite honestly. Listen, I've said this a bunch of times, dude. He can scheme with the best of them. He's the best scheming guy that there is, period. For offensive scheming. I don't think he's a great head coach. I wouldn't sit here and tell you that he doesn't develop them at all. I think he suffered development-wise with I think Caleb may go through a bit of a struggle a little bit this year. He may not. He's that good. I'll tell you that. Caleb Williams could have won the Heisman as a freshman. He could have. Had he played all year, he might have. He might have. He was that dude. He was that dude. I mean, he carried y'all's asses the next year. He schemes with the best of them. If he had been smart last year and given the ball to the running backs, even if it doesn't get you, sometimes even if it doesn't get you yardage, but dude averaged 8.5 yards a carry and like 10 yards per touch. Kind of need to give him the ball a little more. Just for nothing else, you got to make sure that you keep some of that heat off of him. And the one thing is that they were a half the field read got a team. That's how they have always kind of been. It's tougher. It's a tougher transition to the NFL. And in the NFL, they're all All-American dudes that are playing out there. You're not getting away from that. You're not running away from that defensive end or even defensive tackle the way that he was running around playing hero ball at SC last year. You're not doing it. They'll gobble your ass up. They're almost just as fast as he is. Again, I like Caleb Williams a lot. I think he's a stud. But I think that Lincoln's better served to be a coordinator, but I think that he's the best offensive mind in the game. I do. I've said that a lot. I can't stand the dude, but I've said that a lot. I think if he had more of a person, if he was an OC that had a guy like when he had Stoops made him run the ball. Hey, man, we got Samaje Perine and freaking Joe Mixon. Run the damn football. When he did that, things changed a little bit. And he's look, one of the guys that has been able to use the air raid and run downhill very well. Who has? Larry Allen was an interior lineman. I thought he was a left tackle for them. Tyron Smith. No. What you talking about, Willis? I'm going to have to make sure and double check you there. Oh, he was a guard, is what it's saying on Wikipedia. I'll be damned. Okay, well then it's Trent. Done. I don't know why I thought that for some reason. Anthony Munoz was another one of those dudes, though. And some of you guys may not be quite old enough to remember that guy, but I do. He was a bad dude. Yep. I don't know why I thought that, though. That's weird. That dude was a beast, though. Whew. Darius Afalava. Did he announce yet? Has he announced yet? Yeah. He's an OC disguised as a bad head coach. That is what it is, man. He was definitely one of them. And here you go. I see, listen, and I said that knowing full well that that was coming there. Fight on. Knowing full well that this was coming, I said that. Because he's definitely one of them. Look, you can, there's those guys that, you don't really go wrong with. There's only one Jerry Rice, and the rest of them you can't say. I don't give a shit what anybody says until you got to catch all his records. There's no Jerry Rices. But most other positions, it's arguable. You can say Brady's the GOAT. I mean, there's a lot that went into him winning them championships. It's a team game. I agree that, yes, he's the best winner of all time. But do I think he's better than John Elway? No. No, I don't. Do I think in John Elway, they didn't win a bunch of Super Bowls. He wasn't better than John Elway. Do I think he was better than Joe Montana physically? They were about the same. Joe Montana was a winner too. Do I think he was better than Troy Aikman? No, I don't know. I think things could have been a lot different for Troy Aikman had Jimmy Johnson stayed around. The thing kind of blew up. Dan Marino? Nope. Not better. Not better. Peyton Manning? Nope. Not better. I don't think he's better. I think he's a winner, and he played for winning teams. He played for a team and a coach that was, at that time, he was the best at scheming for both sides. I mean, they did things the Patriot way. They got it done. It took both of them. The people that say that Belichick wasn't shit, the only reason he won was because of Brady, you're missing you're missing the other side, man. I get it. Brady is the guy, and you can call him the GOAT. I have no arguments about it. Do I think he was a better player than those guys? No, I don't. I don't. What? Come on, man. Now you're just saying shit. Yeah, listen, man, I'm a Niner fan, so I'm okay with this. and Joe got it done in the pressure situations better than anybody, but he also had Jerry Rice and John Taylor, and he had Roger Craig, who was the first Marshall Faulk. Why the hell is he not in the Hall of Fame? They had a nasty defense. Ronnie Lott, all that. I mean, the Niners were. Think about the guys that they had. Jeez, unfair. But he had the best receiver of all time, and to me, Jerry Rice is the GOAT football player. It's either him, possibly, maybe LT. I'm not that guy that says that it's. I don't. There's no way in hell that Tom Brady was better than Jerry Rice or Barry Sanders or Lawrence Taylor. Don't give me that shit. Aikman had Emmett. Michael Irvin, his best year wasn't close to that year. It wasn't even Jerry Rice's best year. But he had 400 more yards and more touchdowns than Michael Irvin did in his best year. Michael Irvin was good, though. I'm not saying he wasn't great. What are we talking about? Well, but there's a shelf life for everything, though. Tom left at the right time. He also stayed. Had he left earlier than he did, because in the Robert Kraft and stuff, I mean, there comes a point like Robert Kraft was much more loyal to Tom Brady than Belichick wanted to be. You know, we can say whatever we want about that. They did this. They tried to do the same thing with Joe too. They almost kept him before they sent him to the Chiefs, and you would have lost Steve Young. They wouldn't have won another Super Bowl. You know, they wouldn't have, because Steve Young was going to leave if not. But they almost kept him around, if you know that story. Again, there's a shelf life for all of it. And at some point, it kind of changes things. And then, you know, it is what it is. They don't, and players, look, it's not the same game anymore. It's not the same game anymore. And if you don't end up with those right guys, but think about it. They did it over a 20-year period. They dominated the game. Most dynasties don't last that long. To win 6 Super Bowl, I mean, they won more Super Bowls in that period than any other team in NFL history has over the entirety of it. It's insane. He definitely had the best O-line in the NFL too, no doubt. And here's the other thing I would tell you about that, though. If you start thinking about, you know, like, here's one thing I would say about Emmitt Smith. I have a lot of respect for Emmitt. Do I think he's the best running back of all time? Hell no. No. Neither does he. Neither does he. He wouldn't tell you he is. When he's getting ready to break the record, he was like, shit, Barry would have broke this 5 years ago. But I don't really see Emmitt in the top 5. I think that he benefited from that off. Imagine what Barry Sanders would have done behind Emmitt Smith's line. Oh, shit. Yeah. Yeah, but that he changed them, but he didn't change any. They didn't change anything as far as how they were doing things. It's all part of the system, man. It's just like the West Coast offense. There's a group of those guys, and they're all interchangeable. It's already moved. It's moved to the Shanahan group. You know, or Gruden, Shanahan, whatever. But they're all out there, and that's what Andy's part of. He started with the Niners, then ended up with Green Bay, then the Eagles as a coordinator. Then he became head coach of the Eagles. But it took Andy a long time to get to this point. It took him getting that guy, the quarterback. Do I think that Tom Brady's more talented than Pat Mahomes? No. But Pat Mahomes still has a lot to prove as well. But look at what he's done. He's already won 6 years, 7 years, whatever. Shit. Yeah, that's true. He left at the right. I mean, sometimes it happens. Well, he's lying then now. He's lying. Yeah. They don't want you to forget about him after a while, man. I get it. was a different game, man. They ran the ball well and played great defense, but he still, I mean, you got to win the games. However many interceptions he may have had. Look at his play in the Super Bowl. How many interceptions did he have in the Super Bowl, Big Simp? How many interceptions did he have in the Super Bowl? There's it's not always a stat thing. When you just try to equate it all to stats, then you're missing the boat on a lot of that shit. I'm going to tell you a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame and isn't, Otis Taylor. He's a top 5 all-time wide receiver. He played in an era that didn't really throw the ball. Go watch this film. Go watch my channel about that. The Way Past Due channel. Go check it out. He's a beast. He's been out. They hadn't let him in the Hall of Fame. He cooked a lot of those guys. The time that he played in, and he played for a team, he played for those early Chiefs teams that for in an era that they didn't throw the ball a lot in, they threw it 100+ times less on Otis's team than everybody else's, pretty much on average. Yeah, man. What did they do in the Super Bowl? And that's what I would tell you about Tom Brady. What was great about him? He wasn't going to screw up in the Super Bowl. They got beat in Super Bowls. It wasn't because of him. Sometimes that happens. What makes you think that? I don't know, man. He can flick that ball. He's not putting a ton of strain on that football, man. That's wild. Well, that's true too. That's the other part. Look, and that's what I would also say. See, you can talk about these sacks all you want to, or use these stats all you want. And the game is the one thing I know about working on that Hall of Fame campaign for Otis Taylor, that you have to compartmentalize their careers. And that's what I'm saying is, I'm not sitting here telling you that I don't think Brady is one of the all-time greats. Do I think he's better talent-wise than Dan Marino? Shit, no. Or Elway? Shit, no. No. I don't think he's better than Warren Moon as far as talent, or Jim Kelly. But it doesn't mean he's not great. The one thing I know is the game has changed so much. The defenses have changed so much. The rules have changed so much. If Otis Taylor would have played in the era when, the illegal contact era, he did everything he did when they could drape themselves all over you, all the way up and down the field, dry hump you all the way up and down the freaking field. And they did. His teammates all say, and they're all, a bunch of them Hall of Famers, are like, if he'd have played in that era, in an era where you couldn't touch him after 5 yards, there's no telling what his numbers would look like. You have to look at it from a whole picture. You can't just say you can pick out these little freaking things all you want to. That doesn't make you right. How the hell did we get on this? But again, and I would say the same thing about, what about Tim Brown? Great. He was amazing. But he wasn't better than Otis Taylor, brother. He wasn't. I'm telling you, if Otis is looked at in the right light, he's a top 5 all-time guy. He played at an HBCU and should be, flat out, should be a Hall of Famer. He had 2,000-yard seasons in a time that there was one other guy that was getting 1,000-yard seasons. One other guy. Lance Allworth. They threw the ball like 300-400 times more than what the Chiefs did. Otis Taylor was that dude. Hey, I'll tell you something too. Coach Switzer loved Otis Taylor. When he was a scout for the Chiefs after his career, he gave all kinds of love to OT. I'm not even a Chiefs fan, by the way. In fact, I hate the Chiefs for not getting him in there. They haven't done enough to help him. But Otis Taylor is one of the best of all time. He should be in the Hall of Fame. People should be screaming about him being in the Hall of Fame. I'm telling you, there's a lot of cool stories about there. Oh my God, Big Simp. You got to get a timeout for this one. Yep, you got to get a timeout for this one. Can't say nonsense and get away with it in here, guys. Come on. Can't do it. Yeah, Bambi. Now, and listen, I'm not even bad-mouthing him because he had like 6 or 7 in a row or something like that where he was over 1,000. He was a stud. Otis Taylor had his two. He had a 1,110-yard season or 11 something, and then he had a almost 1,297-yard season. Both of them were on 57 catches. Imagine, and I'll tell you this: he averaged the only receiver. There's 2 receivers in history that have had more of their team's average production as far as catches and yards and all that. So catches in the passing game, they had more than Otis did. Jerry Rice and Randy Moss total. Jerry was at 23%, Randy was at 22%, and Otis was at 21% of the team's production. If you put his production up, you stick him on a team, they're going to probably put Torrey Holt in before they put in Otis Taylor. And I love Torrey Holt. That's insanity. Otis Taylor's the only receiver aside from Jerry Rice to be named MVP by anybody. Not the AP MVP is the recognized MVP of the NFL. Otis and Jerry Rice are the UPI had Otis the MVP, and the Pro Football Writers named Rice the MVP one year that they ended up giving it to John Elway. That's the only 2 receivers in the history of the NFL to get that. He was that dude, man. He was that dude. Yeah, it makes me sick to my stomach when I think about this. It really does. No, we came up with a stat though. It's the apples to apple stats because of the fact that you just can't really compare these guys throughout different eras. That's why I think it's really hard to compare a lot of these Oklahoma. The same with these Oklahoma guys. I mean, it's just a different game than it was then. When you look at animals, I mean, you have to look at what they were in their time and look, put them up against the guys that they played against. Are they one of the best? That's why look, I hate these Hall of Fames. I don't like the Baseball Hall of Fame. I can't stand the Pro Football Hall of Fame. A bunch of fat fuck sports writers that have an agenda. And it irritates the shit out of me. The same way the baseball one does. Irritates the shit out of me. Let the fucking players decide. Taylor was 1,000 times better than Lynn Swann. Sorry, Lynn Swann. 1,000 times better. He had better numbers than Lynn Swann. And Lynn Swann came after him. And after the illegal contact rule. Put it to you this way. Travis Kelce, I mean. Otis played 10 seasons. He really only played 9, but he played 10 seasons. And he had a little over 400 receptions, almost 8,000 yards. In Travis Kelce's first 10 seasons, 1,000 catches, pretty much 900, something like that. It's not even kind of close. Put him in this era as a tight end, he gets more opportunities. The fact is, you have to look at other numbers than just the raw number. If you're going to compare across eras, then you have to, because there's a lot of different things that happen. He also played in 14-game NFL seasons, not 16 or now 17, and they're about to go to 18. The numbers are going to continue to skew upwards. This is why, I mean, look, I've talked to Hall of Fame guys, Mel Blount and I mean, look, one of the best safeties of all time, Ken Houston. Played with him at Prairie View, against him in the NFL, and he's like, there was nobody better. There's another cornerback that people should, I mean, Lamar Parrish should be a Hall of Famer, and nobody even fucking talks about him. The guy went to 8 Pro Bowls and was an All-Pro 3 times, and he's never been on the final ballot for the Hall of Fame. He tells you it wasn't good. Like Drew Pearson, he covered Drew Pearson, Otis Taylor. He goes, Drew Pearson was a bitch compared to him. It ain't close. Yeah. You know, Rob, and you're from the area, so you know that. And look, I can tell you this. What I do love is Chiefs fans. Chiefs fans. There's so many Chiefs fans that'll still say, if they grew up during that era, Otis is still my favorite Chief. Done over Mahomes, over Kelsey, over any of those dudes. Otis Taylor. Years later, 50 years since he caught a football, still their favorite Chief of all time. Yeah, there you go. I could say, yeah, see. So are you, who's your favorite of all time, Chief fan? Yeah, the Rock and Roll. Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I would, yeah. He was the prototype receiver before there was anything called a prototype receiver. That's correct. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, he's always, I mean, if you anybody I know that's been a Chiefs fan since in that area of time, right, that watched him play, he's no further down the list than, 2 or 3. Curly Culp, some of them, or some of those guys, or whatever. Lynn Dawson, yeah. I mean, that's the weird thing is like Bambi got in, but his quarterback didn't make it in, and the dude had disgusting numbers, right? And then Biletnikoff gets in, but they don't put that quarterback in, right? Stupid as shit. Hadel didn't make it in from the Chargers. And, Bambi gets in easily, but John Hadel doesn't get in. And then Daryl LaMonica doesn't get in either, but they put in their receivers. And then Lynn Dawson gets in, but no Otis Taylor. And Lynn Dawson would be like, shit, I wouldn't be a Hall of Famer without Otis Taylor. Mike Garrett was insane, but he didn't really have a great NFL career. But he was really good. And he'll tell you that Otis deserves to be in the Hall. Any of those guys that have played with them will tell you that. Man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of crazy stories. If you haven't ever really got into the merger era of the NFL, there's a lot of stuff to it, man. It's a wild deal. Mike Garrett was a bad dude, though. They drafted him late because they figured he went early enough, and to the Rams, they figured he would stay at USC, right? This is what tells you something about that idea, because a lot of people will throw that out there. Why they didn't have a lot of original AFL guys in the Hall of Fame is because they played in an inferior league. It's a bunch of bullshit. Because a lot of the best players would get drafted way high in the NFL draft and would get drafted way low in the AFL draft and would go to the AFL teams, including Mike Garrett. Mike Garrett was like the second pick they took at the Rams. The Rams were good, and the Chiefs didn't figure, so they waited way late to get him, and he went to bone-chilling freaking Kansas City instead of LA, where he had already been at. I do know my football, brother. Hey man, whenever I was helping with that, we got him we made him a semi or finalist finally a couple of years ago, but they still hadn't put him in yet. And I helped work on that campaign. I was obsessed with it. It made me sick to my stomach. I don't think it's a shame that they put him in, but he deserved to be in the Hall. But I think if he's in, and here's what I've always said, I don't like to do the you don't deserve to be in the Hall shit. I don't do that because these guys all deserve what they deserve. You know what I mean? I think I struggle with Lynn Swann. I struggle to understand the Lynn Swann one myself, but he was the first ballot guy. I think he got in off of that one Super Bowl game, the catch on the sideline, and you know that you just remember it. It's iconic. Otis Taylor's catching the Super Bowl 4 was pretty damn iconic too. They were calling that Viking team of the century before they went into it. They weren't supposed to. I mean, we find out later that they lost 4 in a row, but their defense was disgusting. He cooked them. Herb Adderley from the Packers will tell you that toughest guy he ever covered, and he's a Hall of Famer. He used to cook Mel Blunt's ass, and he's a Hall of Famer. And Mel Blunt's the reason that they started the illegal contact rule, because he'd do all that stuff, and he used to cook him. Yep, the Purple People Eaters. Yep, they whooped their ass though. That game wasn't really close, and he put it completely out of reach, and it was a freaking 5-yard little hitch route that he took to the house from 50 almost. Otis was a different cat. I got to get out of here too, guys. I've been going almost 30 hours. I got to go check on this dog and finish my column. It will be out for you guys this weekend. I appreciate everybody for coming in. Love having these chats with you guys. Look, man, have some patience, have some love, and enjoy this season. I'm excited about it, man, but I am absolutely excited about this staff. I'm absolutely excited about what we're going to see in the future coming up. I think it's criminal, underrated, and just bullshit that goes around the media and what they think of these coaches and that coach. You can say what you want about he hasn't done it as a head coach, blah, blah, blah. Man, this dude is a leader of men. He's recruiting at an elite level. His staff recruits at an elite level, and they're doing it the right way. They're doing it the right way. They're going to win. This is going to be an SEC powerhouse. It's a matter of when. I'm excited and enjoyed the conversation with you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Benji. I appreciate that, man. Have a blessed weekend yourself. Right on. Thank you for coming in as well. Sugo English 1. Thank you, sir. Wiley Litchford. Yes, sir. Appreciate you too. Greg Williams. Ryman Lemon. My man. What's up, bro? I hadn't seen you in here yet. Let me throw something for you here.
You know what, guys? In a nice way, fuck y'all. We don't give a shit.
I love Coach. Thanks for coming in, Coach Rob 077. All you guys that have been here, man. I went through the list here a little bit earlier. Everybody who's been here, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Share us with your friends. We'll see you on the next one.